Good evening and welcome back. Tonight is March 4th, 2026, and we are here for the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. The board has just returned from executive session. May we all please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Okay, and that brings us to our favorite time of the night, our recognition. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Trombley.
Thank you, President Silverman. Welcome, everybody. It's been a while since we've been together. Weather delays have caused us to postpone not only meaningful board meetings, but also meaningful student celebrations. So it's my pleasure tonight to introduce Dr. Lauren Scollins to lead us through the recognition of some of our amazing scholars at Hendrick Hudson High School.
Thank you. It's so exciting. Ms. Martino-Alves could not be here this evening, but it is my pleasure to be here. As your former principal, I am so proud of all of you, and it's exciting to be here to celebrate you. This is one of the most stressful mathematical calculations in the main office, those few days before we announce our Valedictorian, Salutatorian, and Master of Ceremonies. Ms. Retta, Ms. Silvestri in the main office, and everyone who is halfway decent with math is calculating by hand to make sure that we have everything as accurate as possible. So I would like to bring up first Braxton Schultz, who is our valedictorian. There is a lot of key information about Braxton up on our screen. Braxton, you just want to share a highlight or something you're proud of your time at Hendrick Hudson?
So unlike a lot of kids at Henhud, I did not start here in the school district. I moved into the Hendrick Hudson district as a freshman. And so I just feel like the district has been super great. It took me a minute to get adjusted from moving from across the country, but I feel like, you know, I've been able to create good friendships. I feel like I've been presented with a lot of great opportunities that help me expand my education into college, and yeah.
Standing. So our salutatorian this year is Victor Delgado. Come on up, Victor. Has been recognized here a number of times for his being a scholar athlete. But Victor, would you like to share a little bit about your time at Hendrick Hudson?
Sure. I think I'm extremely privileged to spend my high school career here due to all the, I guess, resources I've had, whether those are the teachers, the various and extensive courses I've had at Hendrick Hudson. I'm just delighted to receive this honor. I spend a lot of time communicating with athletes and students from others, from other districts and schools in our section, even our state, and some of the resources we have, like our biomed program and other opportunities, are really they really excel. So I'm grateful to receive this.
And our Master of Ceremonies, who will be leading our graduation ceremony this year, Katerina Carvalho. And we will also Irina to share a little bit about her experience.
Hi. These 4 years have been really great. I've had a lot of opportunities to really challenge myself with a lot of courses. I started my high school career a little nervous about challenging myself, but I'm glad that in the end, especially these past 2 years, I've been able to really challenge myself, and I've learned that I can do a lot more than I think I can. I've had I really like the clubs and the honor societies that HHHS has to offer. I've spent a lot of my time in clubs such as Reading Club. I love English, and also Lit Mag, where I'm an editor, so that's been really great.
And I do want to take a minute to recognize their families. So if you guys want to give a round of applause to your families. To know you guys over the last few years, and I'm so excited for you. So now we're going to take pictures.
This way.
Parents?
Now, and if the parents want to come and join, we'll get a big group picture with all the family and
Stand by. So, when I was a social studies teacher and I made the transition to become an administrator, one thing I always was worried about was losing my connection to students. And I was speaking to a mentor one time and I said, when I became an administrator, I was having a really hard day, and this mentor saw me and said, "What are you doing to remind you of your purpose here?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "Take a minute, take 2 hours and get in the classrooms." And I immediately felt better. It reminded me of our purpose. To the Board of Education, you very often do not get to see the impact that you make, so that's why we want to have opportunities like this so you can meet our wonderful students, meet their families, and see the impact that you make. And to our students, thank you for representing us so well, for being members of our entire community to show what great things are happening at HHHS, because we know not only do you excel in the classroom, but we know you also do that through your peer groups, through the impact you make in the community. So it's been a while since we've been together. It's been a long time since we've been able to gather with students, so thank you for making our day brighter, and we'll kick off our board meeting this way. You are more than welcome to stay for that board meeting, where we will talk about wonderful budget matters and policies and have updates, or we know that you probably want to get back home and study, so we will take a break to allow you to do that right now if you choose to stay, or if you choose to leave. So again, thank you for representing us so well, and congratulations. You don't have to worry about being the first.
So awkward, right? Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Congratulations. You're welcome.
So Dr. Scollins, thank you for leading that recognition, and I will turn it back over to you, Principal.
Thank you. And that brings us to, on our agenda, audience comments for non-agenda items. Carmen, do we have anyone signed up?
We do not. Hold on. He didn't come over, but you allow him to come up and speak?
Yes.
Okay. You want to come up and speak? You just need to sign in with me. You can do that.
Oh. Sorry,
Welcome.
so I'm not sure if it's the right time. I'm sitting there being a board meeting, have no kids in the school district, or kids at all. My name is Eric Warner. I live at 159 Sewer Street in Village, Buchanan. I have one question and one thing I would like to share with you folks. I think it's very important when you guys do budgets. My first question to you guys is, have you requested or demanded a meeting with the governor or our county legislators on your budget issues? Because they've kind of caused this problem. I mean, kind of shame on us for not preparing, but what's done is done. So that's one question for you guys. Secondary to that, are you guys aware what the village of Buchanan and the town of Portland is looking to do on the whole west side of this area? They plan on building. After last night's meeting, they're not going to stop. No matter what anybody tells them, they are going to build. I have over 30 years in emergency services. I was an emergency fireman. I went to college for fire protection technology, so I have a degree. I've done all types of my career. 2 of your board members know who I am. I grew up in Peekskill. All you have to do is look at the city of Peekskill and look at Tarrytown now. They're imploding at the seams. They had to go to a fully paid fire department, basically, in a nutshell. So when you guys are looking at all this stuff, depending which way you vote, I'm not about the liberals, politics out of it. I'm about people and keeping communities intact. That's where I stand. So when you guys are doing this, if you're in the village of Buchanan, watch the meetings, pay attention to the meetings they're doing. They're going to build. They had a guy already come in, wants to do 244 units. He's gonna probably come back at the election. There's no proof of that, but they've already come. Once the builder comes, they're gonna come back. We have some of the most valuable property on the west side of this county. There's nowhere else to build like this. It's on the river. And just look at Tarrytown. It is beautiful, I have to say. But there are multiple issues with infrastructure. Schools are gonna run. Same thing can happen here. 244 more kids in your school district. The building you have now is 144. Yes, it's slated for over 55. Doesn't mean you don't have kids. Doesn't mean you can't go back and ask for a reclassification. But just to let you guys know, nobody else is telling you this, if you're not paying attention, be prepared. You're looking at 26.4 million. Well, they might want to add 10 if it goes one way or the other next week, or next 2 weeks when they do the votes. So I'm going to share one other thing with you guys before I leave. You can pass this around.
You can hand that to me. And I will
This is basically, we back to Mike. So what I did was basically wrote a little kind of scenario for them and asked very pertinent information about what we are prepared to do and what could happen if we do this, including you guys at the school. Because every kid, I understand, is $33,000 per kid. And if there's special needs involved, it can go possibly up to $100,000. That's a lot of tax money. And one other thing to leave you guys with, and this is not anti-Semitic, I'm not a racist by far, anybody knows me, they know me. You just had an yeshiva put in your backyard. I'm not sure if it's in your school district, but also remember what they did in Rampo, Pomona, and Monroe school districts. They divert money. It has happened. So I am not racist at all, I'm not anti-Semitic, but you can look at other things that we're going to lose tax money too. So I thank you for your time. Just wanted to share that with you guys. Any questions?
So, sir, this is a Board of Education meeting. We normally do not respond to questions, but I did check with the Board of Education president. We want to make sure we respond to your questions. So, Mr. Warner, first, the question where you appreciate your insights and sharing information with us. In terms of have we requested meetings with the governor and legislatures? Yes. Since October of 2023, we've had over 179 advocacy meetings with legislatures, representatives from the legislative offices. We have coming up in the next week 2 meetings with Senator Gillibrand's office, with Governor Hochul's office, so our advocacy efforts are strong, and we thank you for inquiring about that. And in terms of your second question, are we aware of what's going on in the town in terms of building? I hold monthly meetings with the town of Buchanan and also the Village of Buchanan and town of Cortland's leadership. We have a liaison from the Village of Buchanan. who is actually doing building walkthroughs with me in every building to make sure that they have a good understanding of what our capacities are. So you're bringing up all very valid points. We appreciate you making sure that we're staying in tune. In terms of the last comment you made, I just wanted to make sure that we all understand as a school district, we always prepare for any type of event that could impact our students. We are a public school district. We are mandated to serve all students, and our teachers are kind and caring educators who will make sure that no matter what occurs, we do serve all students who come into our building. So we appreciate your feedback. I do have your name down, and if there's anything else that I missed, I'll make sure I give you my card so we can follow up offline.
Sure, just one last thing. The thing I gave, if you read through it, I got no answers last night. They kicked it back to a meeting from 3 years ago, and that was it. And all they kept saying is, we're bringing the village forward. And at what cost to all of us that live in the area. Because what my village does hurts you guys in school, hurts the community, hurts the town of Portland, hurts Verplank. What Verplank does hurts everybody else. It's a dominoes effect. So, and I really do appreciate you taking time to respond. I really do. And if you got any questions, two of your board members again know who I am. My door is always open. You can knock, talk to me. I'll make you a cup of coffee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carmen, did we have any other audience comments on non-agenda items? Thank you. Okay, so we are turning it back over to Mr. Tremblay for our presentations on our program budget presentation.
Thank you very much. So I will ask our Assistant to the Superintendent for Financial Continuity Control, Ms. Jill Figuerella, to begin our budget discussion this evening. And we will dive into program budgets, but we also have a few additional items to go through this presentation, and Ms. Figueroa will explain them at this time.
Sure. So tonight we will be reviewing some of our program budgets. As Mr. Tremblay said, superintendent and the board's budget, business, finance, benefits, and the capital budget, our K-12 guidance and counseling budget, our pupil personnel budget, and our human resources budget. We'll also be going through our thought exchange results and the context of that. We'll be having a discussion surrounding final budget levy change and the New York State tax cap filing, and also discussing some budget process reminders.
So I think I'm first. So I'm pleased to present my portion of our district's budget in terms of the budget that's assigned to my office. You see here, the superintendent's office does have a number of codes that are normally assigned to the administrative component of the budget, as well as other areas to support district office functions. You'll see here that as every department budget, I have contractual codes, I have BOCES codes, and we also account for the district clerk expenditures here. Of note, in this particular area, I do want to touch base on some of the major changes that you'll see across these codes. The first slide does not have many major changes. If we go to the next slide, you'll start to see some of the changes that we want to dive into. If you look at the superintendent office contractual code, you'll see a larger budget-to-budget increase. The reason behind that is if you were a member of the strategic plan development committee a number of years ago, that strategic plan is coming due in 2027. We wanted to make sure that funds existed in this year's budget to prepare for that work. If you look at a budget from a couple years ago, you probably would have seen that line item was a little bit larger. It's my understanding that there was expenditures in there specifically for the strategic plan, close to $200,000 for contractual partnerships to help support the development of the strategic plan. We put back in about $50,000 to make sure that we can prepare for that strategic plan. That includes everything. We're looking to do it in-house. We have a very talented team of stakeholders who will help build that, but we want to make sure we budget all the way down to things such as if we're pulling teachers, we want to make sure if their voice is being heard that we have substitute coverage for them. If we're going to be asking them to work through lunch or through evenings, that we are able to feed them out of respect for their time. So while it may seem like a large number, It's less than what the district has spent on the last strategic plan cycle, but we wanted to make sure we documented all the details to make sure we were clear and transparent in our reporting. On the next slide, you'll see a large change from budget to budget. That change of $87,000 in the superintendent office BOCES line, what you'll see there is a codification. It's not an increase to the overall budget. That is what we call budget reallocation. This code was, this expenditure was accounted for in another part of the budget, but we transferred it to this portion of the budget to accurately capture where it is being spent from. So you would see an equalizing reduction in another area of the budget of that from a BOCES code to accurately capture that. So while this is when we talk about the transparency of the budget, a reminder to the board, when the board is asked to adopt a budget, you are adopting a number that is a spending plan. And when the community votes in May on the budget, they are voting on a budget number. And then the district is providing transparency of what we think to do with those that large number through these line-by-line reviews. And so you would see an offsetting decrease in a budget code elsewhere in the budget to account for that reallocation. So you'll see a total of a $143,000 change in the superintendent budget from last year, but it accounts for primarily the strategic plan preparations and also a reallocation of funds from another code. And since I go first, we do have a number of program budgets to go through. I'll ask the board to jot down their questions that they may have so that our presenters, unlike what I do to them, where I don't want to interrupt their flow when I do, we'll ask that we allow our budget presenters to be able to go through their presentation. And at the end of all of the program budgets, we'll make sure that we address your questions before we move on. So at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Figuerella to present her budget for business, finance, expense, benefits, and capital.
Thank you. So the Business and Finance Department provide integrity and fiscal oversight by managing the budget through payroll, purchasing, and auditing. We provide an oversight of operational efficiencies along with food service and risk management. We also provide strategic allocation of district resources while providing an analysis of district finances that align with our educational and student-oriented goals. So my budget is basically, again, the business department, the finances of our benefits and capital budget as well. So first line on my budget looks like it has a significant increase of $127,000. This is for legal services, debt financing, Westchester County Police, grant writing, etc. And most of that, again, we are trying to realign and reallocate things within the budget to make sure that they're being reported in the correct financial codes that are required by the Office of the State Comptroller. So you'll see some of the lines below there are in the negative because I have moved things around. In the next category, the decrease of $50,000, some of that has moved up to the first line. Again, in the third line, the same as well. Materials and supplies, I have cut some of that from the business office budget, materials and supplies, trying to cut back on that for the district overall. And then our administrative capital, risk management and safety, that particular type of expense has decreased this year. Our capital construction cost associated with BOCES can really dictate where that number goes because we as a component district of BOCES do pay some of the capital expenditures. It's divided amongst the 18 districts in the Putnam Northern Westchester consortium. So the capital expense can fluctuate. In the next area of the budget, this is called our benefits and undistributed benefits and undistributed expenditures. I'm sorry. And in here, our health insurance, our pension costs, our payroll taxes, our unemployment, workers' comp, life insurance. We did see a significant increase in health insurance, but we've also seen some decreases in other areas of those benefits. So while we see a change of $143,000, our health insurance did go up as a district, up over 5%. So I think that's an indication that we're trying to cut in other, or save in other areas so that, because we know that this expenditure has gone up. The remaining codes there are principal and interest that we pay on debt. And again, the first one has gone up significantly. That's the principal and interest on our bonds. That will be due to the project that's going on currently. We have a $30 million capital construction project. So next year we'll begin paying debt on that, and that debt payment has gone up. So you'll see a significant increase there. Right now we have budget anticipation notes rather than a bond, but that will turn into a bond. And that will be increased by $2.3 million. Our principal and interest on our energy performance contract, our network leases that we've been paying off are paid off this year, one energy performance contract, and we have a new one that just started up. So that's why you're seeing a decrease there. And then again, our extended school year cost just covers the cost of our 20% of the cost of our extended school year program, which is a summer program for students with disabilities. And we're seeing a little bit of an increase there based on contractual increases, $23,000. So overall, the $1.9 million increase you're looking at is basically due to the bond and bond anticipation notes that we're going to have payable due on the construction project. And that summarizes my budget. We'll be moving into our guidance department budget, and I think Dr. Klein is here tonight to present that.
So while Dr. Kleiman is getting settled, and thank you, Jill, for presenting your budget. If you notice, the superintendent's budget and the business, finance, benefits, and capital budgets are, while they may make up a large portion of some of the fund accounting, they are pretty boring. We do take a different approach to our presentation than we do ask of our programs. As you know, we always want our budget code owners who present at these meetings to share what they're proud of in terms of their programs and the outcomes of their programs with the funds that they were provided graciously by the community for this year's budget. We ask them to share what they hope to do with a budget for next year, and then they'll go through the specific line items. If you notice, Ms. Figuerella and my budget was a lot like what our Day of Fun coming up on March 21st will be when we do our full line-by-line budget. But now we're going to go back into our normal format for presentation, where we celebrate what we did this year with the funds that the community allowed us to have, what we hope to do next year, and then go through those specific line items. So Dr. Kleiman, thank you for joining us.
Sure, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity. So if we look here, that's a little bit of background for next year in terms of our counseling program. So the K-12 model that we follow is comprehensive. We've got our elementary, middle school, high school, delivery of services, of counseling services we provide to students, and it's strictly, again, based on our comprehensive framework, the American School Council Association, that we follow. And we look towards following that curriculum, again, from elementary level to middle school to high school. So here's some of our program highlights. As you can see, we're very happy and very proud to, again, provide the services to our students. Everything from career fairs to college fairs, everything from making sure that students are equipped with resources to provide them each and every year of their development here at the elementary, middle school, and high school. These are some programs that we really we look towards providing that information for parents and students each and every year. So we are, again, thrilled and happy to have these programs, and this is something that, in terms of our department for guidance and counseling, that we give students the opportunity to enrich themselves and understand each and every year, again, what counseling can bring in terms of providing future success. Again, these are just some additional highlights that we provide, and what we've been working for this year in collaboration with different departments throughout the district, and making sure that our students are thriving and doing really well. And again, very, very proud of our counseling staff. So for next year, it's the same. It's continuing the programs and services that we provide. We're very, again, I have to say that we've been very, in terms of the budget, fiscally conservative. My department, as you'll see, is very few lines in terms of managing our finances. So I feel very proud of that. We really spend on the students and programs and services that we provide. So I've been, in my time here, understanding of our finances and really spending on the students and what we need to do. So I'm proud of that. So here you'll see the breakdown of the budget and the same lines that these are really operating expenditures that we've got for guidance and counseling. And this just, again, each and every year, things do go up, costs do go up. We have some tech services that we use for our students. We have Naviance, we have School Connect. These are just, in terms of the budget, strictly just operating costs that we have. You will notice at the one line at the bottom, our BOCES, our SAS services. That is an increase. Those are our student assistants counselors that work in the high school and the middle school to provide counseling services for our students. So that you will see a bump in an increase. Again, that has there's, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Figueroa, that is their salaries there. So at the bottom. Yes. Last year it was $140,200. This year coming up, we have proposed $155,000. That is the K through 12 counseling budget.
Thank you, Dr. Klein.
So next up we have our pupil personnel and services budget presented by Christopher Moreno, our acting director of pupil personnel services.
And as Mr. Moreno does come to the table, just to clarify, Greg, if we want to go back one slide on budget code, and if you get confused by what I'm about to say, we have a solution for you. Come join us on our Saturday line-by-line budget discussion, where we'll teach you how to read a budget code in terms of the general accounting code. So if you do go to 2810-490-01, any 490 code is a BOCES code. That is a contract we do have with BOCES, so it would be an increase in the contract from the provider. Those are not locally hired salary components, but they do provide a service to our students through a contractor. So thank you, Dr. Clymer, for sharing that with us. And Dr. Moreno, I'm sorry to keep us from you.
Not doctor yet, but thank you very much, Mr. Trombley. Appreciate that. Good evening, everybody. There is our mission and our actions for the future. You can go on to the next slide. So discussing essentially what we have been doing this year in the PPS department and with the budget. We have some really great programs that we're very proud of here to serve our student population. So a lot of what we did was improving or bolstering our current and existing programming. Some of those are increasing our support for our already set regulated program, which services students with social emotional needs at our elementary schools, including additional staffing to support them throughout the school day so they can access the general education curriculum in their home school environment. Also providing new materials and supports for our related service providers to work with our students. This year we increased or added such platforms as Everyday Speech, which is a social and pragmatics program that works with our speech pathologists, our school psychologists, and some of our classroom teachers to assist our students with their social communication needs. In addition to that, we've had some new and continued partnerships. I know Dr. Kleiman talked about our SAS, our Student Assistance Service Partnership. We've also had a continued partnership with Adjournment for our Finest Screener, which is a social emotional screener that works to determine if there are students in our schools that are in need of social emotional support through our mental health team. In addition to that, we also have entered into a partnership with Northwell Health, which has been very beneficial to our overall community, not just the students in our district, but it also provides support for any student in the Hendrick-Hudson community, whether they're referred by our school clinicians or not. If you go to the next slide, it talks a little bit more about what we're looking for next year. So again, continuing those partnerships, continuing to strengthen our existing programming, but also looking at offering different programming or additional programming to support the changing and shifting needs of our student population. So that might look like continue our Northwell Health, our Vital Behaviors behavioral partnership, student assistance services, and also looking at increased offerings programmatically for our students. If you go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about that. So long term, looking at adding additional programming for less restrictive placements, such as consultant teacher services at the elementary level, continuing to increase our support for our Ready Set Regulate program across all of our elementary program and all of our elementary schools, and then looking to add increased therapeutic supports at our high school and middle school as well. And then looking at increased training on specialized reading and specialized reading instruction for our special education teachers throughout the district. All right, so if we go through each line here, so at the start we see an overall reduction of about $10,000 in our equipment code. Coming down, we've noticed that the trend is that most of our spending as far as materials and supplies goes for smaller items, and so we've brought that down and reallocated that funding into our materials and supplies codes. A slight increase in our mileage and contractual expenditure. That's mileage for our PPS department. That could be related service providers who travel, as well as the assistant directors and myself traveling between schools or to conferences or professional developments and things of that nature. Our contractual expenditure code, that goes for our postal services, which obviously we have to send a lot of things regulatory via the mail. Our contracts with such programs such as Handle Care, their training program, some of our memberships, our Boom Learning program, Everyday Speech, and our EF Smarts curriculum, which we're looking to roll out at our middle school for our 6th and 7th grade students to help them with their executive functioning needs as they progress through our middle school programs. Our hospital tutoring staying right around the same. That's for students, unfortunately, maybe hospitalized or in step-down programs when they're coming back to district, hopefully, and they need that tutoring when they are out of school for medical or social emotional reasons. And then our related services and contractual expenditure line, we see a decrease in there mostly because of some coasters that we're able to take advantage of through BOCES, but those are, that line is dedicated for professional development, some of our cognitive behavioral therapist services, some nursing services for our in-district and out-of-district students as well. All right, and then as we go on through the codes here, our materials and supplies code, a small reduction, but overall around the same. This is our specialized materials for our special education teachers, our related service providers, and any specialized programs that we might need. And then the next three, or actually the next four codes deal primarily with our out-of-district students. So obviously we have a number of programs that we're very proud of here at Hendrick Hudson, but there are students who need, or needs are in excess of what we can provide at times. We still want to provide them with the best possible educational outcomes and educational supports, and so we look for strong partnerships with out-of-district programs that can support them. And so that's what you'll see in the next three lines. So you'll have our public school tuition. That's primarily therapeutic support programs in public school settings that we have partnerships with, and that we've sent students in that have been very successful. And then our private school and our BOCES line, both tuition lines. Again, specialized programs in excess of what we can do here in the district. And then finally, our related service line for BOCES, well, you'll see an increase. That's primarily due to our Northwell Health partnership and a couple of other COSER programs that I think long-term will be beneficial to the district and also show a cost savings. It's a lot of money shifted to that line. But those are our bilingual evaluations and specialized evaluations that we do through BOCES. We have BCBA services or board certified behavioral analyst services through there. Our Northwell COSER, as I spoke about, psychiatric evaluations and neuropsychological evaluations, as well as contractual partnerships with teachers of visually impaired and teachers of hearing impaired and deaf. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end.
Okay, and next we have Dr. Stephen Garcia with our Human Resources and Leadership budget.
Good evening. So this is my second budget, Mr. Trombley, correct? Yes. So this has been, I think, a wonderful experience for the past almost year and a half. We've seen a lot of changes, and I think that's been one of my charges of the past year and a half, especially with personnel and teachers and administrators. So again, my first Comment, obviously, is always, which isn't up there, that's okay. It's always about why we're here. And we should never lose sight about the purpose of a school district. It's about the children. And everything we do and every decision we make starts and ends with the question of what is the best interest of the children. So in terms of goals and highlights this past year, continuing from last year as well, but specifically, we're currently engaged in 3 collective bargaining unit negotiations with the HHEA, the DAA, and the CSEA. So that's a trifecta for this year, and it is a challenge, needless to say. But it has been a pleasure working with each one of those units. Part of the work this year, of course, is shaping how we recruit, we retain, we hire, evaluate, and support our staff members, especially our next generation of teachers and leaders. We've done a few things this year, like restructuring the new teacher mentor program, exploring how we actually evaluate probationary teachers and how we prepare that review. We've hired many new leadership positions, which are key to the success of this organization, such as the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, Director of Health, PE, and Athletics, Assistant Superintendent for PPS, Assistant Director of PPS 612, and then 3 principals, middle school, high school, and also FGL. Another main component of what we do here is that we make sure there is accountability for the appropriate and ethical behavior of all faculty, staff, and administration. Looking at next year's plans, similar theme, but as you know, the only way to change an organization, whether it's a business, whether it's private or public, is really through its personnel. And I think we're in the midst of that here at Hendrick Hudson. Next year, we'll continue to review and improve recruitment, hiring, and evaluation processes throughout the district. Specifically, my office, Ms. Fran Didero, will be retiring at the end of June. I hope to retain her in some capacity to continue that knowledge and maybe a different type of role, but she has been the HR office. So looking at how we staff that position, what else do we necessarily need to continue the good work that's happening in this district that really predates me and has been really contingent on her over the past 30 years. So that is a huge loss for us. But again, I'd like to make sure I have her around because she is the knowledge, she has that knowledge of the entire district, especially in the realm of benefits. We will also develop, hopefully we continue developing a leadership culture. I know that Dr. Scollins this past afternoon did a wonderful learning session with our administrators, and I did ask some of our colleagues afterwards, I said, do you think we would have been able to have this type of dialogue and this intellectual conversation about leadership and learning last year? And resoundingly, they said no. And I think that's really contingent upon the changes that has happened here in this district for the positive. We're going to continue to establish norms of professionalism throughout the district. We're going to support and mentor probationary administrators. We will foster leadership success and succession in the PPS office. As we know, that's our friend Mr. Moreno will be taking over those reins permanently in that new role. We're going to continue to develop and foster positive relationships with our collective bargaining units. We're going to enhance our reputation as a learning organization in the region. When we go to any other meetings throughout the district, outside the district, throughout the region, we're always representing our school district. So we may say, hey, you know, Steve's going to BOCES today, and it may be about, they're supposed to be a meeting this today about spring law update and what's happening in legal services here in education, but it's how we connect with people. It's also ways that we kind of recruit people. And we're going to continue spreading the good word of the work that's being done in this district. We're going to continue to hold staff accountable for professional conduct, and we're also going to continue to review the staffing needs in the district to make sure that we support student learning in a fiscally responsible way. In terms of the numbers, there's not really any difference at this point in terms of what we're asking for to support the work in the HR office. 1430, 410 is a line which is really one of my biggest lines. It is the biggest line. Belonging to certain recruitment organizations, We do evaluations of staff when needed. That's an expense. Participating in different professional organizations and workshops and subscriptions. The next line, we have personnel contractual expenditures, $14,400, and that's just any travel expenses we may have over the course of the year. Personnel materials and supplies in my office, $14,3450.10. Remains stagnant as with everything else. Looking at materials and supplies associated with my office, and as we change over in my assistant, for my assistant, we'll be looking at any needs we may need there. And lastly, $14,3490.10. A change from a couple of years ago, which we added any of the modules. Everything's online today, right? So any of the modules and the applications for HR is embedded within that BOCES code. And that's a big chunk of my budget, specifically recruiting, absent management, evaluation, professional growth, and then that is something which really needed today in the world of HR. With that stated, any questions I'm sure we can ask at the end? Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Garcia. Thank you to all of our administrators as Dr. Garcia sits down. I'm glad that you added the caveat that at today's leadership meeting, would you have been able to have that conversation last year? Because it was a meeting that I had to miss. So I'm glad that they said it was because of last year, not because the superintendent wasn't there. So that's good to hear. And I want to thank all of our presenters this evening who put time, effort, and thought into not only their presentation, but most importantly, how they structure a program budget to serve our students. And so Steve's words filter down through all of our administrators to all of our teachers as we're not only designing our budget, but as we live our day-to-day lives with our students. They do such a wonderful job. A lot of what you heard tonight was a lot of the nuts and bolts of what it takes to run an organization the size of Hendrick Hudson. But I truly appreciate the way that our presenters are able to link it to the student experience to make sure that we always keep our mission and our purpose here at the forefront of that. So thank you very much. I do have to admit I made a mistake on this slide, the next slide. What we would like to do now is yield to any questions, comments, concerns about the budget presentations that you just saw. And while you're going around with that, I will update the slide deck real quick.
I have a question for Chris. When you mentioned that you were putting in the budget for specialized reading training in elementary, can you just explain what that is?
Sure. So we have seen in the PPS department a growing trend in students who may require specialized reading instruction. It's been a priority for many years, even dating back to when I was in the classroom, being Wilson certified myself. So what we're looking to do is partner with some of our local partnerships. Manhattanville is one of them who has a really strong Orton-Gillingham continuum, or practicum rather, which two of our current special ed staff, one in middle school, one in the elementary school, are taking part in. And so we want to continue to encourage our special education teachers to take part in those practicums. It's a full year, it's very rigorous, but the hope is that we can train as many of our elementary special education teachers, and obviously anybody who's interested, quite frankly, on those specific modalities to deliver that instruction in order to provide the best possible instruction for all of our students.
Does any other board member have any questions? Thank you for all of the presentations.
Welcome. Thank you for allowing us to share that. So if we want to return to our presentation. There was the right slide that was supposed to be up. You can go ahead and advance. So again, thank you to Jill for coordinating this. Thank you to, just so in case this is the first board meeting you're turning into regarding this topic, there's a lot of thought and effort that goes into this. We start well before the December timeline, and we ask our administrators, our leaders, our teacher leaders to think about what they need to do to develop the best program they can have. They have meetings with us through the month of December. We, before every presentation, the individuals gathered here from the cabinet will review the presenters planned presentation to provide feedback, to make sure that we understand the numbers, to make sure we have a good understanding. And then the presenters will also present to the Finance Committee before the budget discussion in public. So there's a lot of work, preparation, and effort. I do know that we have two valued members of our administrative team who did a wonderful job presenting or showed up to support those who are presenting. You're more than welcome to listen to the next portion, or you're more than welcome to get some rest before tomorrow's day as well, and feel free to stay or leave at any time that you want. Thank you for being here to support our efforts and to support each other. So thank you. I do want to take some time. When we had our last board meeting, we did have one of the mechanisms that we use to gather community input to help the board along its budget journey. And as I said before, this is a journey. We start well in December, and the budget is ever evolving and ever moving, and that's why it requires so much attention at our time together to provide updates on the various inputs that we're receiving, whether it be on our state aid, whether it be on student needs, events that occur that impact the school district. So it's a constantly moving and evolving process, so that's why we want to make sure we have plenty of opportunities for community feedback. And one of those that we have engaged in is a thought exchange. And I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who participated in our recent thought exchange related to a number of budget scenarios that the Board of Education is considering from our last meeting. You'll see on the screen before you, you'll see that we had 240 participants who shared 154 individual thoughts with a series of ratings. And the way the program works is that if you choose to engage in the exchange, you provide a thought and then you're asked to rate the thoughts of others. And so that's where you'll see, well, you only had 240 participants, but you had over 6,000 ratings. That's just how the platform works, where you are allowed to provide or crowdsource. I don't know if am I Generation X? I'm Generation X? 70? So
you claim that.
So I don't know if I'm speaking to my generation, but if I use the word crowdsource, that makes sense. We're crowdsourcing feedback. And so you'll see that we had a number of ratings. I was born in 78, if anybody's counting.
It's
Gen X? You can't say generation?
No, you shouldn't.
Well, that means that you're really not Gen X, my friend.
Yeah, with the times.
Okay. So I always pick on the superintendent. You're not getting any more snow days. Too soon? Okay. When we look at this, the last rating the last component of the exchange you have on there is low. What that merely means, that's the alignment, and that's generated from the system of thought exchange that merely says there were thoughts in the engagement that some rated high. So after they provided their thought and they went to go rate others, there were individuals who rated some thoughts high at the same time that others rated those thoughts low. And what it just means is that people who engaged with this had different perspectives on some of the thoughts that were listed there. So that's, when you look at the alignment, that's what that means. The platform is a vital tool for our district. The platform of Thought Exchange is a vital tool for our district, allowing us to gather a wide array of perspectives and ensuring that every stakeholder has a voice in our budget development process. And this level of engagement that we saw in this exchange was a testament to how deeply the community cares about the Hendrick-Hudson Central School District and the future of our students. So for all those who participated, who wanted to participate, for those of you who didn't get a chance to participate, we have a number of other engagement opportunities coming up that we'll review before we break for the evening. But those of you who did participate, please know that your feedback is invaluable, and this exchange is one of those many opportunities I said. And we're going to take some time to go through some of the outcomes of what we saw in that exchange. I strongly encourage the community's continued participation in all of our upcoming public forums and board meetings as we navigate these decisions together. And I'll do the third plug for it, my favorite day of the year, the Saturday Day of Fun, otherwise known as the Line by Line, coming up on March 21st.
You're really selling it.
That's what a boomer does. If we go to the next slide, Greg. So to give a clear picture of what we heard in the exchange, I'd like to take a moment to look directly at the primary takeaways that we had from the 240 participants who shared their voices. First, we saw that there were thoughts related to the protection of vulnerable taxpayers. There was a strong community emphasis on keeping taxes low to protect seniors and residents on fixed incomes. We also had a number of thoughts asking us to preserve programs. There's support that exists for moderate tax increases if they guarantee long-term financial stability and maintain current educational offerings. Additionally, we saw thoughts emerge around the concept of financial scrutiny. Residents who participated in this exchange expressed prevalent concerns regarding administrative costs and how our per pupil spending appears to compare to neighboring districts. Obviously, given our topic of number of our board discussions and discussions within the community, the financial fallout from the closure of Indian Point was a common theme as well, as that remains a significant source of community anxiety. Community members also suggested exploring new cost-saving measures and aggressively pursuing additional government funding through advocacy efforts to help support some of that lost funding when the Indian Point Energy Center shut down. And as a final theme that emerged, the overall community sentiment desires a solution that carefully balances immediate tax impacts with the future financial health of the district. We go to the next slide, Greg. And so while those 6 takeaways provide a helpful summary, we must look deeper. The responses we received regarding the proposed budget scenario reflect a deeply engaged community with a range of understandable concerns and priorities. As your superintendent, I have reviewed the feedback thoroughly, and I appreciate the candidness the community brought to the conversation. Several prominent comments emerged that require our collective attention and open dialogue. Some thoughts shared that the district should be doing more to advocate for funding. Additionally, responses rightfully demanded transparency in their spending and asked for clarity on why our per pupil costs, I always mess that phrase up, per pupil costs, appear higher than some of those in neighboring districts. We also heard a strong call to prioritize internal cost reductions, particularly regarding administrative structures and programs with lower enrollment, before the community, asking the community to bear the additional burden of tax increases. And simultaneously, we received strong support for maintaining the exceptional educational quality exemplified by just a fraction of our students here tonight that you saw when we recognized some of our outstanding scholars, and the competitive programming that helps support their educational journey that define our district. We also heard the very real and deeply personal concerns of our seniors and residents on fixed incomes, who fear being priced out of the community they helped to build. These are heavy realities, and finding a balanced approach that ensures long-term fiscal stability without burdening our taxpayers is the exact challenge that we must solve. I feel it's my responsibility to ensure that these themes are not simply acknowledged, but directly addressed with clear facts and context. I believe we must navigate these valid priorities without allowing them to become adversarial or to divide us as a community. In the next few minutes, I will take time to explore these specific topics with you together. We will examine our efforts to advocate for financial support that does not rely on our community taxes. We will review our administrative footprint, detail the areas in where the district has already made significant financial cuts, and review the tangible outcomes our students are achieving. And I hope that by closely looking at the data behind these themes, we can foster a truly shared understanding of our financial landscape and work collaboratively towards a solution that supports both our community and our students. Speaking to that, the tax cap was originally sold as a mechanism to force financial discipline upon municipalities, effectively telling districts and towns to do more with less. This is something that I heard in the early 2000s when I entered the military. And as a military veteran, and I entered prior to the 2000s and the horrific events of September 11th, we were directed by our commanders as a commander's intent. It wasn't publicly, it wasn't the aim high or global reach, global power. They don't tell you that in the recruiting ads. But when I got into what we call permanent party after basic training and my technical training, you get to the Air Force and you think you're going to change the world and save the world, and then they tell you it's time to do more with less. I can tell you from firsthand experience that the philosophy of doing more with less, that the tax cap was publicly stated to do and to force school districts to address, frequently results in failure and most always compromises the mission. What occurred in the Air Force when we were doing more with less was forcing our troops to execute a mission without the necessary resources. And what the military eventually learned from that is you do not find efficiencies by doing more with less. You find vulnerabilities. And eventually you compromise your commitment to the mission. The tax cap's stated purpose when initially enacted was to direct municipalities to do more with less, to spend down reserves, and to figure out efficiencies. In education, Our mission is the future of children, and we cannot afford to compromise that. But New York State fails to recognize the anomaly that exists in Hendrick-Hudson, that our reserves are not there to help balance year-to-year variances in our budget, but rather to make us whole from the loss of Indian Point. In short, the funding framework that New York State has in place for the entire state, a one-size-fits-all approach, does not work for our community, given our circumstances, which is something that I have shared and I will continue to share ad nauseum with our elected state and federal officials. Next slide, please, Greg. Because we refuse to compromise our educational mission, we have fought tirelessly for alternative solutions. Thought exchange inquiries we received were made into the efforts the district has taken to secure state and federal funding to mitigate the revenue loss from Indian Point Energy Center and shifting it to our taxpayers. I took a look, very scientific, I took a look at my own personal calendar since I started in October of 2023. On that calendar, there are 107 unique engagements focused specifically on financial advocacy to the district related to the approximate $25 million in lost revenue. This could be phone calls to legislators, meeting with press officials, responding to press inquiries, meeting with advocacy groups, going to Washington, participating in decommissioning oversight board meetings. While these appointments reflect my schedule alone, they represent only a fragment of the work being done by our partners, staff, and community stakeholders across Hendrick-Hudson. For fiscal stability and revenue generation, we secured $2.1 million in additional short-term state funding through direct lobbying to bridge the revenue gap on a year-by-year basis. Through our efforts, we also finalized the Holtec pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes agreement through to the year 2029. Securing a total of $20 million through the life of that multi-year agreement. Although the approximate $4 million in annual revenue received from that pilot from Holtec is but a fraction that once was. Additionally, in terms of that pilot, we negotiated a 2% revenue shift of that as originally negotiated from the county to the school district. In other words, while we were going through that pilot negotiation, there was a 2% shift that the county was going to receive from Holtec, which we worked with our partners in the town to shift to us. Furthermore, we worked with New York State to finalize and implement the Cessation Mitigation Fund, a critical transitional piece to allow us to not automatically shift the burden of that lost revenue immediately to our taxpayers. In terms of legislative influence, we secured federal support for the Stranded Acts to tax spent fuel and co-authored. As a social studies teacher, I lived out one of my dreams, so I thank you to the community for allowing me to help to co-author a bill. I now don't have to just sing, I'm just a bill. I can say I helped write a bill. We co-authored the REACT Act for the Decommissioning Trust Fund Transparency. And we hold a permanent seat on the Indian Point Decommissioning Oversight Board and successfully moved the December 2025 meeting to Buchanan Verplank Elementary, ensuring that Decommissioning Oversight Board witnessed in the backyard of our schools the impact on our educational community firsthand. Finally, regarding strategic reserve planning, we established a tax mitigation reserve as a legal mechanism to expand our local reserves, allowing us to offset tax levy increases and protect our community from sudden fiscal shocks. Recently, we have coordinated on-site visits of executive and legislative branch officials, as we explained earlier in the community question period, asking them to come see firsthand our programs that we are proud of, but are afraid to lose if we do not receive the support we need and our students deserve. These 107 documented engagements are a testament to our community's proactive stance, and we will continue to advocate aggressively to ensure our district remains a supportive and innovative environment for every student and is the beneficiary of as much state, county, and federal funding that can be secured. And this context clearly demonstrates that the district, along with our valued partners, has been relentless in advocating for our community of our students. Again, please keep in mind that at the same time they ask us to fit in a one-size funding formula for all through state aid, New York State is also shifting an immense burden onto local taxpayers while simultaneously restricting our ability to fund those obligations. New York State has asked schools to take on critical, expensive mandates, such as the mandatory transition to electric bus fleets, the expansion of universal pre-K, expanded education for 21 and 22-year-olds, and reminds us of our job, but without additional funding to do that, to offer robust mental health services and hardened school security. Additionally, New York State is part of the group of adults that shut down Indian Point without a clear pathway forward for our schools. Combining a loss of $25 million along with a state aid funding formula that does not account for the district's unique situation as ours, along with a municipal tax cap that is meant to reduce reserves, mean Hendrick-Hudson is an untenable situation. Most schools who are not in that situation as difficult as Hendrick-Hudson across this region are at a breaking point themselves, where the current financial structure of New York State education is actively pitting our communities against their own schools. Let me reiterate that. The financial framework that the state feels should be appropriate and applied to all schools, regardless of circumstance, is in fact pitting our community of people who want and deserve to stay in their homes against the students of that community. Something I firmly reiterated at the December Decommissioning Oversight Board meeting and subsequent meetings with legislatures urging for common sense and immediate solutions. I'll also reiterate that school districts across the region are coming to terms with the fact that they may have to propose a budget requiring 60% majority of voters to pass a budget, a significantly higher threshold than municipalities such as towns and villages face. By contrast, if a village such as the village of Buchanan or a town such as the town of Cortland wants to override the tax cap, all they simply need to do is have a majority vote of their board, not the community members who would be paying that. That underscores how much procedurally difficult it is for a school district to exceed the tax cap than it is for a town or village. Next slide, please, Greg. So knowing how difficult that municipal tax cap is to navigate, we have not just looked outward for help through advocacy efforts. We have looked inward to maximize our own efficiency. Over the years, the district has made careful and deliberate financial reductions, largely focusing on areas that have minimal impact on the daily teaching and learning environment of our students. When the district allocates funds, it is not for lavish or non-essential items. It is for the education of our students. We invest upon agreed resources that are critical to supporting our educators and enriching the student experience. In any school district, salaries and benefits represent the largest portion of the budget. Reducing these costs inevitably requires reducing staff, which in turn affects student programming. Cutting programming, especially those that are highly valued and give our students an advantage in their post-secondary plans, has historically and understandably in this district been met with resistance. These programs directly and deliberately shape student outcomes. The reality underscores the delicate balance that we must face. Every dollar we cut from staff or programs has a tangible effect on student learning and outcomes. Our prior reductions have been strategic, targeting areas around the margins to preserve core instructional quality. However, continued revenue challenges mean that future cuts will increasingly touch areas that are essential to the success and opportunities of our students and may touch the programs that we so gladly hold dear here at Hendrick-Hudson. As we reflect on programmatic cuts in previous budgets, it's important to understand that every decision, as I said before, is a delicate balancing act. When we discuss budget reductions, we are not just talking about ledger lines. You've heard me say over and over again, a budget is not merely a balance sheet. It is a statement of our educational values. We are talking about the daily lived experiences of our students. Over the previous two budget cycles, specifically from 2024 to 2025 and 2025 to 2026, our district had to make incredibly difficult choices to address the revenue shortfall caused by the shutdown of Indian Point. We examined and will continue to examine every proposed reduction through the lens of student impact, ensuring that fiscal responsibility, whenever possible, does not come at the expense of our students' post-secondary hopes and dreams. A cornerstone of our fiscal strategy over the past budget cycles has been the intentional right-sizing of our workforce. We have worked collaboratively with our labor unions to implement retirement incentives specifically designed to allow us to reduce our staff head count through natural attrition rather than immediate, large-scale position eliminations, because we know that many of the people who work in our districts also live in our district. Whenever a vacancy occurred, whether through retirement or resignation, we performed a rigorous analysis to determine if that position was essential to maintaining the core student experience, or if the responsibilities could be consolidated. As a result, we successfully reduced our total staff from a peak of 654 members in the 2023 to 2024 school year to 602 positions to date this year. In addition to these attrition efforts, we look closely at our daily coverage models during the 25 to 26 budget process, which included reducing our permanent substitute teachers from 12 to 5. A detailed line-by-line analysis of those two past budget cycles reveals how rigorous zero-based budgeting yields significant reductions in necessary realignments. We identified substantial savings across key operational categories during that time frame. The largest historical reductions we saw in that time frame we saw occur in our contractual services. And if you're reading your budget codes, that's going to be your 400 line. But you all knew that. This indicates a deliberate shift in resource allocation away from vendor-based services to protect our core instructional program and rely on internal human capital to help provide those services. This included significant savings in combined reductions to district-wide computer assistance and computer lease contractual expenditures. We also made targeted reductions in operation and capital spending during those past budget cycles. Transportation budget cycles were lowered, largely achieved by reducing non-instructional transportation overtime. Equipment spending was cut, including reductions to plant maintenance equipment, demonstrating our commitment to deferring capital investments where possible. Furthermore, over the past two budget cycles, we demonstrated a commitment to zero-based budgeting by asking budget code owners, such as those presentations that you saw tonight, to reduce their initial proposed budget by 20% during each year to the development cycle prior to the budget adoption. So I'll say it publicly here. Everybody who presented tonight, cut 20%. Look at that. We have taken similar steps this year. Each of the past two cycles, we have also seen spending freezes implemented midway through the academic year, allowing the district to capture savings and aid in projecting available fund balance at the end of the year to perhaps apply to the next year's budget. It is crucial to frame these historical cuts properly because we cannot expect these same areas to yield savings every year. For instance, as we develop this current budget, we are bracing for significant increases, as Jill presented in her budget, in areas like health insurance. Past savings do not guarantee future flat costs, which is exactly why we must continually evaluate and reduce our recurring expenses whenever possible. A question often asked by our community is, why do we need to make any expenditure reductions if we are already looking at an increased tax levy over the cap and do not need to cut programs to balance the budget this year? Well, the answer is staring us in the face this whole presentation. That $25 million loss of revenue requires a complete transformation of our operational paradigms. We must fundamentally rethink our programs, our taxes, our reserves, and our priorities. It is vital to understand that a balanced budget does not automatically equal a financially sustainable budget. We are currently utilizing reserves to help bridge our funding gaps, but reserves are one-time or short-lived funds. They provide that temporary bridge, not a permanent foundation. If we do not make strategic, appropriate reductions to align our reoccurring costs with our actually reoccurring revenues, we are simply pushing the district towards a massive funding cliff. Ultimately, as I said before, our major cost drivers are contractual increases in employment liabilities. As a community, we must decide if we want to cut those costs. If we do, we must be honest with ourselves that it will mean cuts to programs and student opportunities. We operate leaner today than at any point in recent history, but we do so with a fierce commitment to maintaining the high-quality education our community expects. And our mission remains laser-focused on providing our students with an education that allows them to compete and succeed. So a key part of ensuring that rich teaching and learning environment and maintaining high-quality instruction involves taking a hard, transparent look at our leadership footprint. I want to address the administrative component of our budget by providing crucial and critical regional context. When our community is asked to support a tax levy, it is our responsibility to demonstrate that our leadership structure is efficient, necessary, and comparable to our peer districts in Westchester County. I rarely, if you've ever listened to me on these board meetings, and I don't know how many people are watching tonight, but I know my son and my wife are, so they know what I'm about to say. I rarely compare a school district to a business because we are not a business. But it's helpful in this particular case to view a school district in that lens. A private sector company serving thousands of customers daily and employing a specialized staff of over 600 people, such as we do here in Hendrick-Hudson, would require substantial operational infrastructure. That company would need a dedicated human resources department, a robust finance division to manage complex multi-million-dollar budgets, a legal and compliance team to navigate strict regulations, and a technology department to secure the data of thousands of users. In the Hendrick-Hudson Central School District, we manage all these exact functions, but with the added complexity of immense state and federal mandates and highly regulated parameters that we must operate in. For instance, we must submit, just from my office alone, over 100 mandatory reporting milestones to New York State Education Department, and their systems are really antiquated. So I actually have to put in information that they already know about me and spend a number of times writing down my phone number, my BEDS code, my location, and my enrollment of all these things that an efficient state system would already have. Sorry, that was a little bit of a bird walk. We've had to do a lot of reports this past week. Managing this vast regulatory compliance centrally protects the instructional time of our educators. Without dedicated personnel handling these staffs, the burden would fall directly on our classroom teachers, taking them away from their primary job of teaching and providing individualized instruction to support our students. When evaluating our administrative footprint, it's important to understand the figures shared in state reporting, where many people gather their data, represent total compensation, which includes annual salary and the cost of benefits such as health insurance and pension contribution. According to New York State reporting data, Westchester County consistently ranks the highest in the state with those administrative component costs. Each year, New York school districts are required to report any administrative salaries and benefits over $174,000. For comparative purposes, I want to focus solely on the administrative positions that meet or exceed that threshold. And a review of these roles reveals that Hendrick Hudson maintains a highly lean and fiscally responsible structure compared to our regional peers. Average salaries for central office administrators and building principals across Westchester County routinely exceed $200,000, with top-tier leadership in many peer districts receiving total compensation packages between $300,000 and $390,000. Hendrick Hudson's compensation level consistently aligned with the lower end of the Westchester average, representing significant cost avoidance for our local taxpayers. In terms of headcount, many Westchester districts of similar or even smaller enrollment maintain much more expansive administrative tiers, including multiple associate and assistant superintendents. Several peer districts in the county report between 15 and over 30 administrators above the state disclosure threshold. In contrast, Hendrick Hudson operates with a team of exactly 15 individuals exceeding that threshold, which includes a cabinet of 5 members overseeing massive functional areas. Our administrative structure is intentionally lean, accounting for only 7.4% of our total budget. This efficiency ensures that every dollar is spent directly on the instructional, that over 83.2% of every dollar is spent directly on the instructional program, which remains our primary focus. It is important to recognize that this same administrative team, tasked with all the aforementioned challenges, working to secure state, local, and federal funding, implementing efficiencies while maintaining the student experience, and navigating these very budget issues we are here tonight describing, is the team that is made up of that administrative component. A quick comparison to a nearby district with the same approximate enrollment shows their administrative component comprising 11.9% of their total budget, with their highest administrator base salary at $326,000 and a mean administrator balance of $225,000. This data clearly demonstrates that Hendrick Hudson is operating efficiently with respect to administrative costs while maintaining a high level of fiscal and operational oversight. Our administrators oversee the critical matters that allow our educators and support staff to focus entirely on their primary jobs of teaching and supporting our students. If your family has ever experienced an issue that needed resolving, it was highly likely an administrator coordinated and supported that response. If a community member brought forward a suggestion for district improvement, an administrator most likely helped with the efforts to explore and implement that idea. Furthermore, when the federal government, the comptroller's office, the county government, the state, or any numerous other government agencies we interface with on a day-to-day basis require action or reporting, the administrators direct those mandates to our team to ensure compliance. We will continue to review every position to ensure we are operating as efficiently as possible, and I appreciate the community holding us accountable to this high standard. And we remain committed to making collaborative decisions that balance fiscal discipline with robust supports for our students and staff. And just to take a brief moment to take a look at the slide that you have in front of you, what we did is we compared our administrative component to our budget. I'm next going to talk about student outcomes. So I wanted to find a common denominator of a student outcome to compare to. So Hendrick Hudson for the 2024-2025 school year had a graduation rate of all students we are required to serve, four-year graduation rate of 92%. So I chose districts that either had a 92% graduation rate or a 93% graduation rate. If you look at our administrative component, it is at 7.4% of our overall budget. And I took those districts in Westchester County which had either a 92 or 93% graduation rate and shared with you for comparative purposes the administrative components of their budget. You can see that Hendrick-Hudson, of those comparative districts, is at the lowest, with Carmel next, and then other districts over the 10% mark of their overall budget. Greg, next slide, please. Thank you. The robust support provided by our administrative and instructional staff directly translates into tangible results that our children achieve. As we transition to that topic of student outcomes, it's important to directly address a theme that emerged in our recent community thought exchange, suggesting that our district is in decline. When reviewing this feedback, it is critical to recognize how easily isolated anecdotal data can be turned into a perceived reality. While individual experiences are always heard and valued, relying on anecdotes to judge the overall health of an entire school district creates an incomplete and often distorted picture. As educational leaders, we have the responsibility to shift the conversation from anecdotal assumptions to rigorous evidence-based information. So it is necessary to discuss the ambiguity of claiming a district is in decline and ask, what exactly are we measuring? In public education, there is often the tendency to judge a school system solely by a narrow set of metrics, such as state assessment scores. However, a true evidence-based approach requires us to look beyond, far beyond a single data point. We do not define our students by a single score on a single day. Instead, we measure our success by the actual completion of our academic program and the quality of post-secondary paths our students are prepared to take. Remember when we went back and we said our job is to support the hopes and dreams of the students we have in front of us? Again, considering that we do not define our students by a single score on a single day, we measure our success by the actual completion of our academic program and the quality of the post-secondary paths our students take. This shift reflects a changing paradigm in education, where success is no longer measured by rote memorization, but by true post-secondary readiness, often called college, career, and civic readiness. I think it's important to take some time to understand how well Hendrick-Hudson is performing in this new era, to look at the New York State, what we call the CCR. Am I a boomer if I say, is that Creedence Clearwater Revival? Do you know what that is? No? So the CCR is the state's primary metric for measuring the quality of a high school diploma on a scale of 0 to 100. A score of 100 would indicate that a student met the minimum graduation requirements. For our reported cohort, Hendrick-Hudson achieved a staggering overall CCR index of 177.81. This number is exceptional, and I thank our dedicated staff who helped our students achieve all they could in the demonstration of the number of metrics that go into building out the score. It indicates that our average student is not merely graduating, but doing so with advanced designations, earning college credits, industry certifications, and high-level endorsements. This data proves that here at Hendrick-Hudson, we are providing high-level opportunities, and they are meeting those opportunities for all students. This commitment to meaningful, future-focused assessment is exactly why Hendrick-Hudson was selected as a New York State planned pilot school. Declining school districts are not selected by New York State to be a pilot to showcase how transformative education can be. Being chosen for this prestigious pilot places our district at the forefront of educational innovation in New York State. It means that Hendrick-Hudson is leading the state in developing performance-based assessment that measure real-world skills like critical thinking and adaptability rather than relying on bubbling in a sheet. This designation, combined with our elite CCR score, confirms that Hendrick-Hudson is mastering the present standards while simultaneously writing a playbook for the future of education in New York State. Our graduation rate at Hendrick-Hudson reflects this excellence, consistently trending in the 92% to 94% range over the past 5 years. Based on data from the New York State Education Department, our four-year cohort graduation rates are 93% for the class of 2020, 92% for the class of 2021, 93% for 2022, 92% for 2023, and an estimated 92% for the class of 2024. Looking at the graduating class of 2025, 80% of our students continue their post-secondary education, with 67% attending four-year universities and 13% attending two-year colleges. Our students are gaining entry into highly competitive institutions to continue their hopes and dreams, such as Cornell University, Vanderbilt University, Boston College, the University of Southern California, and RPI, as well as elite military academies. I believe we had a representation attend the United States Air Force Academy. Go Falcons. Colorado. Greg, next slide, please. No? The record of excellence extends well beyond college acceptance letter here at Hendrick Hudson. Our students are competing and succeeding nationally. When reviewing the class of 2025 SAT outcomes, our students significantly outperformed both the state and national averages. Our tested students achieved a mean math score of 585, which is 77 points higher than the national average and 72 points higher than the New York State average. In evidence-based reading and writing, how was it? Yeah, how was
I took the ACT.
Oh.
It was good.
It was good?
It was good, yeah.
I'll put that in next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
The ACT included. Only a couple things.
Did it help you get into Colorado?
It did.
Nice. Excellent. That's what we like to hear. Our students achieved a mean score of 590 on evidence-based reading and writing, outpacing the national average by 69 points and in the state average by 68 points. Combining these sections, our students earn an average total score of 1175, placing them 146 above the national average and 140 points above the state average. We want to make sure that in future presentations we're able to provide regional data such as Westchester County, so we're making sure we can find that. We also here at Hendrick Hudson celebrate the achievements of the whole child, recognizing that success takes many forms. Last year, 24 of our students received the New York State Seal of Civic Readiness, meaning they demonstrated their ability to understand and engage in key civic responsibilities. And 16 received the Seal of Biliteracy, demonstrating their ability to master not one, but 2 or more languages. We had 15 student athletes recruited to compete at the collegiate level, 3 Con Ed Scholar athletes, and music students performing at Carnegie Hall and in London. Finally, for our students seeking direct career pathways, we currently support career tech programs where we have over 92 students gaining hands-on experience and industry certifications. These tangible achievements are true outcomes of a Hendrick Hudson education, and they're exactly what we are fighting to protect during this fiscal crisis. Next slide, please, Greg. Knowing the high caliber of these outcomes, we must properly contextualize the financial investments required to achieve them. During our recent community thought exchange, a specific concern was raised suggesting that our district spends more per pupil than better districts and that our graduation rate might be out of line with those institutions. To address this perception directly and transparently, I deliberately selected 6 peer districts, as I mentioned before, in our region to compare alongside Hendrick Hudson, specifically Carmel, Dobbs Ferry, Mamaroneck, North Salem, Pleasantville, and Terrytown. And all of this information is publicly available, and they did not pay me to place the ad in here. We probably should have done that so we can have some fun. From the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association, Facts and Figures 2025 edition. No, that is not a typo, among my many, but this is not one of them, where the dollar sign is the actual S. This is also available online. I chose these specific districts, as I said, because they share a similar graduation rate. By comparing districts with similar academic outcomes, we can have an accurate conversation about how our financial and operational efficiency measures up to districts in our community members are referencing. Before we review the specific comparative numbers, it's helpful to understand the data points that we're presenting. The graduation rate represents the percentage of students graduating by August of their 4th year of high school and includes all the students the district is financially responsible for educating. The data also outlines our total enrollment and the corresponding number of certified full-time and part-time staff members. To provide context on compensation, the teacher salary range illustrates the lowest and highest salaries according to the contracts in place for the year provided, which is 24-25. We have also included the high school guidance counselor to student ratio to highlight the level of support provided for post-secondary planning, among other items. The financial metrics provide a clear look at both spending and revenue on a per-student basis. The expenditure per pupil is calculated using, as a numerator, it represents the total expenditures charged to the general fund and interfund transfers, which we will go into more detail at our line-by-line budget day on March 21st. And the denominator of our per pupil expenditure represents the pupil count based on enrollment calculated by the state. Submitted to the state. The state aid per pupil is calculated by taking the total state aid received as the top part of the fraction and dividing it by the enrollment figure based on the New York State Education Department Basic Education Data System. So when we examine that per pupil, actual expenditure per pupil, the data clearly shows that our spending of $37 $37,444 is not an outlier at the top of the scale. In fact, it is nearly identical to Carmel at $37,483 and is significantly less than North Salem, which spends $48,910 per student. While there are districts like Mamaroneck and Tarrytown that spend less overall, our expenditures reflect a balanced middle ground necessary to sustain our robust programs and competitive outcomes. We are delivering on our mission to ensure students achieve their maximum potential alongside some of the most respected districts in our area, and we are doing so without inflated comparative spending. The most vital piece of this conversation and the root of community concern regarding local costs lies in the state aid per pupil comparison. Hendrick Hudson only receives $5,757 per student in aid. When you compare this to Carmel receiving $10,762, Pleasantville receiving $7,759, or Tarrytown receiving $7,089, a stark financial reality emerges. The reason our spending feels heavier to our community is not because our total expenditures are wildly out of line with our peers, but because our district is severely underfunded by the state in comparison. This structural funding inequity forces our local taxpayers to shoulder a disproportionate, larger share of the financial burden to achieve the exact same 92% graduation rate as those neighboring communities with higher state aid expenditure, or state aid funds. From a staffing and support perspective, our data highlights a careful balance between fiscal responsibility and student support. Our high school guidance counselor and student ratio is 186. This ratio is identical to Carmel and more efficient than districts such as North Salem, Dobbs Ferry. It demonstrates that we are providing the necessary post-secondary guidance for our students while maintaining a leaner, highly efficient staffing structure. Furthermore, our teacher salary range on the low end of $64,950 to the high range of $146,331 position us competitively within the region. Our starting salary is strong, trailing only Carmel and Tarrytown in the group, which aids in recruiting top talent to our classrooms. Our maximum salary allows us to retain exceptional educators without inflating our comparative costs to the higher extremes seen in districts, such as in other districts. Ultimately, this comparative analysis proves that Hendrick Hudson is delivering exceptional educational outcomes and managing resources with a deep respect for our community taxpayers, operating efficiently to overcome significant state and funding shortfalls. Hang with me, folks. Next slide, please. You can't miss this slide. I'm really proud of our students and our staff that that are demonstrated in some of the outcomes here. Our fiscal efficiency is ultimately validated by what our students accomplish after they leave the hallowed halls of Hendrick Hudson High School. That's called alliteration, right? Yeah, it's called alliteration. It is not enough for our district to simply hand the student a diploma. We must prepare students for post-secondary success. That is what we are here for. Prepare our students to leave us, achieve us, and come back and become members of our community and contribute to the community. We must prepare our students for that true post-secondary success. What good is it if we graduate a student who does not succeed in their plans after they leave our hallways? We could look at a variety of measures to gauge our effectiveness here, but I found the most readily available and perhaps the most telling metric is what I call persistence in degree completion. This is taken from the National Clearinghouse data. Thank you to Vanitha and her team for digging deep and finding this. Our data demonstrates that Hendrick Hudson graduates are well prepared for the rigors of higher education, as evidenced by our strong persistence in degree completion rates. The average freshman to sophomore persistence rate, which means those students who completed their freshman year, did they go on to a second year in the institution where they enrolled? That average persistence rate is 90% across all institutions of Hendrick Hudson graduates for the classes of 2017 through 2022. This figure significantly addresses the concerns that our students are not successful after high school, as it shows the vast majority of our college-bound students are successfully transitioning and continuing their education. Specifically looking at the class of 2022, 91% of students enrolled in four-year institution returned for their second year. While the rate for two-year institution is lower at 67%, this is still a strong measure of success in our students' initial college experience. Furthermore, our six-year degree completion rate is 63% for the classes of 2017 and 2018. This would include associate's, bachelor's, and advanced degrees. Notably, the majority of these degrees are from four-year institutions, with 120 of 131 degrees for the class of 2017 and 97 of 113 for the class of 2018 being four-year degrees. This highlights our fact that our students are not only persisting, but are successfully completing higher level degrees, which is a key indicator of long-term post-secondary success. Next slide, please, Greg. Sustaining that level of lifelong success for our children requires a collective commitment from all of us in this community. I want to reflect upon where we are as a community. During my very first week as your superintendent, I spoke with a parent who was deeply upset about a past district decision. During our conversation, that parent expressed a belief that I had joined what they call, quote, the worst district in Westchester. I paused and I asked them why they would say such a thing. What was causing that to come from them? That interaction has stayed with me because it highlights a fundamental truth. What we model as adults, our students internalize. In other words, our perceptions become our students' realities. If we project a narrative of failure and division, that is the exact environment our children will inherit and believe. The best school districts are not those without flaws, but those that have a powerful, positive connection to their community, working in tandem to lift students up. It is vital that we remain honest and united about why we are facing our current financial reality. Everything we are navigating together as a community regarding our finances can be tied to one single event. That event is the shutdown of Indian Point and the subsequent loss of a nearly quarter of our total revenue, and the fact that nothing was done by those individuals in positions at the state and federal level to mitigate the impact that it will have on our community and, most importantly, our students. There is no mismanagement of funds here. Our budget process is entirely transparent, as you will see if you come to the March 21st line-by-line budget day. We provide detailed updates in public, and we conduct that annual line-by-line review where every single expenditure is presented openly and questions are answered. The strict financial structures of New York State property tax cap do not simply allow for frivolous spending. It was enacted to address frivolous spending. And if we look at districts in the states of California and Massachusetts, California has had the tax cap since the 70s. What we have seen over the course of the year is not enhanced student outcomes, but since the 70s, California has dropped in many of the metrics that are used as ranking for their graduates. Every dollar we receive is not used in a frivolous manner, but is used to educate our students and all of the functions that go into a vast system that is needed to do so. At the same time, I know that raising taxes to help bridge this massive revenue gap is incredibly difficult, particularly for our residents on fixed incomes. I understand this reality intimately. My own mother lives on a pension from New York State and Social Security. And our family is currently navigating whether she will be forced to leave the home she has loved for decades due to the rising cost of living, and no, she does not want to live with me. Everyone is feeling the economic pinch right now. What I love about one of the things I love about Hendrick Hudson is that many people who grew up here chose to return to raise their own families here, which is a beautiful testament to the heart of this district and the community. As we tackle this monumental fiscal challenges ahead, I urge us to move forward together. As I said before, we are being pitted against each other by a funding system that does not work for us. And New York State and other entities that have the power to fix that must intervene. We must be proud of the incredible work we have accomplished and remain steadfastly proud of the work yet to be done. We will always seek to improve, but we must do so as one united Hendrick Hudson community. Thank you for all of your time, your thoughtful engagement, and your deep commitment in completing Thought Exchange, as it provides valuable information to us at Hendrick Hudson Central School District. The road ahead is incredibly challenging and undeniably challenging. Navigating the unprecedented financial reality of the Indian Point closures requires us to make difficult decisions, but I promise you that we will continue to make them transparently and collaboratively with our community. Our district remains our guiding light. Our district mission remains our guiding light, which is to ensure our students are engaged and passionate learners who achieve their maximum potential and contribute to society. We cannot fulfill this vital mission without the trust, the partnership, and the unity of this entire community. I encourage everyone to please stay involved in our budget process, ask questions at our meetings, reach out to me directly. With all the number of snow closures that we've made, you all have my cell phone. and continue advocating fiercely for our children. Together we will that's not a pun. Together we will survive this financial storm and ensure our schools remain the strong and vibrant heart of our community. So thank you for allowing me to take some time to respond to the thoughtful information that was in the thought exchange, and I appreciate the time to address that. So now, some of those tough decisions. When we last met, the board was considering 5 budget scenarios, and this is where the thought exchange was developed from, wanting to hear from some of that feedback from the community. The board is considering 5 scenarios to help meet our budget-to-budget increase. Now, I want to go back because our budget is a journey, and I just spoke for a really long time, and I'm sure my son turned off the video, but if he's joined back on, just want to go back to December of this year. In December of this year, we talked about our budget-to-budget rollover, which is where we take every expenditure from this year prior to doing zero-based budgeting and see what we would need to fund it the next year. The majority of what we see in that 6.63 budget-to-budget increase is related to contractual expenditures, rising healthcare costs, what we call our budget drivers. Ms. Figueroa went over those in detail at our December 3rd presentation. The district is seeking direction and decision-making from the board on which option to move forward with. One of the reasons is we have to file, bless you, our New York State filings on what our levy was, bless you, with New York State ASAP. Now, I know this can be a difficult conversation, and I ask a lot of difficult conversations when we're talking about budget of the board, so I offer this suggested protocol to help us navigate that. If there's a trustee who would like to speak, the chair, as the board president, will grant time, provide their thoughts, ask questions, provide their input. If you do have questions of the cabinet, please direct it to me so I can look at the particular cabinet member who may have more knowledge than I do. Once the trustee yields time, I suggest the board president ask for any questions from the group to that trustee, and then the board president should move on to the next trustee who would like to speak and ask questions. And once all who wish to speak have, you can repeat if there's any things to fill in. And again, we are seeking one of the decisions on one of these, Greg, if you go to the next slide, various options, to help revisit where we left off last time. These were the various options that we were looking at. Remember, that 6.63 is our budget-to-budget levy, and we can get to that in a number of different ways. I'm sorry, is our budget increase driven by our budget drivers. We can get to funding that budget in a number of different ways. You can cut expenditures, you can increase taxes, and you can use reserves. There's other ways. If we received an influx of state aid or interest in investments went off the charts, I don't think that's going to happen. So we're primarily focusing on our use of reserves and tax levy to see how we can balance that budget. If we go to the next slide, Greg, we took a look at what are our best estimates. Again, dealing with taxes and dealing with financial projections, these can change at a moment or a variable's notice. Well, we took our best approach, given the information we have, for various houses valued at $350,000, $500,000, and $700,000, and the various scenarios that the board asked us to look into and present. And you can see, if you live in Cortland with that value house, what the various levies increases would be on your household or in Peekskill. And we also break that down by the annual and monthly estimated costs for the household.
And it's just school.
Just school, correct. That's a key designation. On the next slide, you'll see a brief comparison to school tax with comparing districts, just for another point of reference. If we go to the next slide, our 10-year forecast assumptions, again, it's very difficult to project out 2 years, even more difficult to project out 10 years, so I thank you to Jill and her team for doing that. Here's just a brief reminder from our last presentation about that 10-year forecast. And there's a brief calculation of some of the information. I think you should get math credit, Chloe, for some of the information you're sitting through. That's what you talked. We try to break down that 10-year forecast and budget numbers as well. So that information is here and available if you need to reference it during the discussion. So to the chair, that's the suggested protocol, but I will leave it to you to determine if you would like it.
Okay, so now it is time for our part of the discussion. Is there any board member who would like to start us off with the discussion?
I can start.
Awesome.
Can you help me?
And again, after she speaks, if anyone has any comments, we will turn to you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you so much for all of that information. I'm sure it took a lot of time to pull it together, and it was a lot and amazing information for us to have. And Jill, thank you for all the budget comparisons that you're doing, all the research. It really is making a very tough decision, at least a little easier because we have all this information. I wrote down a couple of things while you were speaking, and while I've been looking at over the last few weeks at the charts. Can we go back to I think it's right, yeah, this guy. So I just want to understand, because we talked about it and then it's been a while and there's been a lot of snow. And sorry to remind you.
It's all right.
It's melting now. So these 5 scenarios, I just want to sort of clarify what we're looking at for. I'm going to kind of take a step back and put my parent hat on. And before I was on the board, I was sort of, I'm still a busy working mom, but a busy working mom who didn't really have time or make time to understand any of this stuff, and learning the school budgeting situation and what all the terms mean. I'm in the middle, we're in the middle year of our 3 years, right? So sorry, time gets mushed together. And I'm learning all of this stuff. It's and I'm a producer for a living. I put together budgets. This is unlike any budget I've ever put together. So as you can see in the line by line that you are looking forward to so much. So these scenarios, so I'm just gonna read this so I can make sure I get it out clearly. I have 2 kids, and they are in the classes of 2029 and 2031. And I think, like a lot of people in this community, I moved here before I had kids, but planning to, and was very attracted to the low taxes. That was 100%. That was 75% of why we chose to live where we live, and got really lucky with all the other things that came with it. So I don't want my taxes to go up any more than anybody else. Can I afford it? Not really. It'll be a stretch. But I'm looking at it from the perspective of, somebody who has kids that are, on the older end, and we're looking at, because of the closure of Indian Point, we're looking at the loss of what, 20 million?
25.
25 million per year that we used to have that we now don't have. And since then, and if any of this I'm getting wrong, please correct me. I just want to sort of reiterate what I think the situation is that we're in. So to make up the 25 million per year, we've done a mix of, we have the cessation fund, and we are going to start drawing from, we're going to continue to draw from our rainy day savings fund that we call the fund balance. Right? Is that right so far?
Yes.
And then we've gotten some, surprise funds from state legislators. That
goes into the fund balance.
That's in in the fund balance, correct? But that increased it rather than decreasing
correct.
it. And then I think I don't remember what years it was. A few years ago, we had a savings in 2024 and 2025 from the old structure of the schools that we had. For those 2 years, so that also contributed to not spending that money in the fund balance, put money into the fund balance rather than drawing it. So I guess my question is, if we start using the fund balance over the course of these 5 different options, we are the A list, we are going to be completely out of our savings within 2 years. Is it 2 years or 3 years, Jill?
Well, You're referring to?
To A?
To A.
Yeah.
So it's a possibility that you could be looking at.
Worst case
depletion
scenario,
of-
yeah.
Yep, of the fund balance within 3 to 4 years, I would say. But 3 years is my projection at this point, yes.
On column A.
I would say, yes, if you stuck with using that much fund balance, $9.5 million and forward, yes.
Okay, so,
It wouldn't quite make it to year 3.
right.
Right, well, you know.
Remember, there's a whole host of other variables.
There's
So if we're
a
just-
lot
Yeah, no,
of
I'm just trying to,
variables.
without
There's a lot of
any other
variables
variables,
within a budget,
just what we're looking at.
and so
Right.
we can only estimate what that is.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand it.
Absolutely.
And then the other, option B and option C, we also, is it option B and C? We also don't make it 3 years with the funds,
Probably not.
right? Based on our best guess,
Yeah.
of course. So are we really looking at column D and E as the only options that we would save, that we would stretch our fund balance the longest?
Given current parameters, options D and E would require less use of the fund balance compared to all the other options.
Right. Okay, cool. So I got that part right. Excellent. So I guess based on that, I just want to understand if we didn't go with D or E and we went with A or B or C, what happens after that? I'm just, as a parent who, like, my daughter's going to be a senior in high school in 2029 and my son in 2031. Those are the years we're talking about running out. And I'm just, concerned about that, and then all the other parents that have kids coming up. I want to understand, what happens then.
So if that were to become a reality of running out of fund balance, yeah, I mean, the cost of that goes back to taxpayers, because you're going to have a gap between what you're budgeting for expenses and what you're taking in as revenue. So there's going to be a gap in there unless there's a way to cut things. So there's another revenue stream that comes in. And if there is neither of those, then yeah, going to taxpayers to look for that money is
Right.
what the result would be. But we don't.
And we're hoping that
again,
all of those things come through.
Right, we're
We get
hoping
more,
that
yeah.
those things come together and not
Right.
cause that to happen.
Okay,
So
so I
the-
just
so
wanted
this-
to understand worst case scenario
Yeah,
from where we are right now.
if I could simplify it.
Yeah,
In
please.
terms, a school district is similar to a household budget, except we are mandated that we have to balance our budget. And we can't run a profit, we have certain parameters.
Put it on our credit card.
Right. We can't operate at a loss, obviously.
Right.
So to do that, we have a couple different, revenues have to equal expenses. Right? And if you, there's a whole bunch of expenses, that's what you're seeing in a lot of these budget presentations, and there's a few revenues. We have state aid, local property taxes, some investment income, some other forms of aid that come to us, and in some districts, they have fund balance. Again, the New York State tax cap legislation was put in place to force districts, back when it was enacted in 2010, 2012, to reduce reserves. So at one time, we were allowed to have
Not to hoard
reserves.
their savings
right?
and-
Correct.
Got it.
Not to hoard their savings and
Right.
increase taxes. So we have a structure that is, we are operating with large reserves because we are allowed to have those reserves because of the shutdown at Indian Point, but at the same time, you have a funding situation that will deplete your reserves quickly. So you have to look to other
Right, it's out of
revenue
whack.
streams.
Right.
Do you get more state aid? Do you get more investment income? Highly likely. So then the other valve that you could turn, if you think of all those areas of valves, would be local property taxes to help balance that budget. Or then you have to go back to the other side of the budget and look at expenses.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I think I'm getting it.
Corey, you're good?
I yield to whoever else.
Does anybody have any questions or comments based on what Corey stated or asked?
I just have a quick comment. I think you're asking in your, did you want to go?
No, I was
She's
just
doing the
helping.
button for me.
Okay. I think in your question, right, in looking at it, if we just take the numbers that we currently have, right, in budget A, and we say I'm just gonna start with budget A, right? If we do $9.5 million this year, in 2028-29, we're gonna need to use 11.5 million. Because we also need to remember that the cessation fund is going down $2 million each year. That's money we have to make up that year. The following year, it's the same thing, right? So if you keep taking from that cessation fund, by the end of 2028, you have nothing left to go further than that in just option A, right? So if we sit here and say everybody's working really hard to try to get, you know, the senators and everybody else to get us funding, but I think as a board, we have to just have the conversation and say to ourselves, how can we stretch this money the farthest right now to help us get a little further along and give them some more time to advocate for aid for us, instead of just saying, let's use the fund balance, and God forbid state aid is $2 million less, which could happen. Everything is unknown right now, right? State aid is $2 million less, where are we picking up that money from? And I think we just need to keep that in the back of our minds as we just go through these options of what we're doing. It's what's gonna help our district to be in a better place for a longer period of time with, you know, yes, do we wanna raise taxes? Nobody wants to, right? But it's a conversation that hasn't been had for years because we've stayed under the tax cap. And when the state starts every year, they start with whatever that tax cap number is to do their calculations. And Jill, I don't know if you can highlight or just explain how they calculate the taxes, like what the tax levy number is gonna be. But if every year we're starting from a lower number, it's always gonna start us off on a lower foot the following year, because we're already in the hole, but unlike other districts that don't have a nuclear power plant that closed, we do. Right? So now we have this gap of money that we don't have. We're starting off on a lower levy already as a district. We're already with our backs against the wall going forward. And I think as a board, we have...
Sorry, I'm just sitting in the break.
Oh,
Make sure
okay.
the tax cap calculation.
Okay. We have done the best, I think, as a board that we could do for the years, you know, that people have been here trying to just, you know, not bring the burden of the taxes as a conversation, but I think the time has come for us as a board to make some really hard decisions, and I know nobody wants to do it, right? But we have to look at the long-term survival of our district by giving us more time to just let everything else play out, so hopefully we get more funding. I mean, that's our only, we need more time.
So I want to ask a question because I know, so we have different, I'm not sure if the committee knows, we have different committees who focus on different areas within the board. So we do have a finance committee who really dives deep into these numbers. And they also helped steer these options, and then they present the information to the rest of the board. So I have a question for those who are on the finance committee, and you might have this answer. I know a lot of our conversation when we had, and I'm gonna blank on this guy's name again.
Don Hoffman.
Don Hoffman, thank you for knowing who I meant. Just in terms of where we wanted to be at a certain time, and one of the years that we kept toying with was 2030. Which of these options leaves us still with some money in our fund balance as we are entering the 2029-2030 year?
The only one that, and this is just taking all these different factors into play, right? Everything could change again with state aid, we don't know, but just given the numbers we have, the only one that's gonna get us there is D and E. The other ones, if we go to option A, we're gonna be $5.8 million in the hole. Option B, we're $936,000 under, and that's a deficit that we're gonna have year over year. And that's not adding all of the other things that could possibly pop up. You know, health insurance goes to 6% or 5%, and we're only calculating 2%. It gives us no wiggle room anywhere to just say, we're securing our future as a district by just living in that bubble. And I mean, Hoffman, 2030 is when the cessation fund goes away completely. Right, where we don't have that extra money that's being given to us, unless we get lucky and they give it to us, right? So I think time right now is our only hope, is to just give it more time, give our district more time to just try to get those funds that we need. And yes, nobody wants to pay higher taxes, but I think, you know, the time has kind of arrived as to where we're going.
Anybody else have any comments or questions from that? Yeah, go right ahead.
All right, bear with me, I kind of was writing all over my paper, so I'm going to try to make sense, and I'm sorry if I go out of order. But the first thing that I wanted to say while I was listening to the meeting, although, you know, it's extensive and it's like a bit long and a lot of information, I really, really, really encourage anybody that's watching to tell a friend to watch it. If anybody contacts you asking, you know, about the budget or why this or how come that, they should watch tonight. I think that it's a great way if you're driving in the car or you're going for a walk, just listen and educate yourself about the district and the state of our district, really. So that was my first thought. Two, I want to say this, the tax cap and the idea of overriding or piercing the tax cap, like, that needs to be forgotten. It's not an option. So anybody at home that's listening or talking with their friends about it, great that there's a tax cap, but HHHS doesn't have that option anymore. So it will have to be pierced for sure. We don't have a choice, unfortunately, because if it's not this year, it's next year. And it could be higher, it could be totally different. As we said, there's lots of variables, but eventually it will be, which leads me to my next point. The Energy Stabilization Fund was exactly what that says. It was a stabilization fund. And for the last couple of years, I'm not quite sure how many years it's been now, we're in 2026, we have been able to hold the line, right? We have the cessation fund and we have the stabilization fund, and it's been planned out. And every year we can change what we're doing, and I think that's exactly what we're discussing tonight. This is the same budget, just different scenarios based on how much stabilizing we do from that fund. So we can choose to throw a ton of that money at next year's budget and pray for the year after. That's like saying, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna buy a fancy car this year because I got a bonus, and then, I don't know, next year we'll see if I can afford it. So I think that everyone needs to realize that while we have these funds, it's really important that we're fiscally responsible with how we use them, and stretching it may be the best idea to buy us time as we do all of this heavy advocacy work, and hope and pray that something comes along in the next 1, 2, 3 years, because it was a massive loss. My other thought is that once you override, you might as well go for what you really need. So if we need to get to, you know, let's just say there's no point in going to 2.9 or 3%, because that would be silly to go for a supermajority over such a small override. So I don't know what the number is yet until we all have this discussion, but I do think that if we're going to override it, we should go for what the district needs and deserves, and what the students deserve, right? I also do respect and know, because I've been here my entire life, that our community, you know, 3%, 4%, 5%, all up to 8 and 10%, it does have significant meaning to a lot of people. You know, I'm not one to judge and say it's only $10 more a month, because to somebody who's struggling to pay as it is, it could be very difficult. I mean, it's not just the seniors that we have to worry about. We do have young people here who are trying to start a family. So I think that's definitely in all of our minds and our hearts. But we also want to make sure that we can keep the district afloat. And this has been kind of coming for many, many years. So it's a very difficult place to be as a trustee, for sure. I think my question, the question that remains for me, well, 2 things. One, I do know, Tamika and I discussed this earlier, our tax cap is lower because our levies have been lower. Does that play into the tax cap calculation?
Well, yeah, yes.
Yes, okay. So if we go with 8 or 9% of a tax levy, then next year our cap will be higher.
Correct. We start off with a higher number to begin the formula.
Right. So then perhaps we'll possibly, and anything can change, right, as we keep saying all night long, perhaps we'll never be in a situation where we have to override the cap. if we do it now.
So by whatever money you put towards the tax levy will be your starting point for the following year, so.
So that's huge. And is each percentage point on that like a big deal? Like, so I guess I'm trying to say, like, if you're overriding at 6 or 8, like, I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to articulate
Well,
it.
if we had 4.5% last year and now we only had 0.98, how does that make sense? Like, how did that help us having a 4.5%?
I don't know.
The math isn't mathing in my brain, but I'm not a mathematician, but it didn't seem to have helped us going to tax cap at 4.6% last year. How did that help us get to this?
We're still under.
So your tax
You're
cap.
saying if we go to a higher 8 to 10%, right? Trying to understand this. We
Me
start
too.
with a higher levy next year.
You start with a higher levy, not a higher tax cap.
Right, you start with a higher levy, then then it establishes your tax cap, right?
It's one component of it. Greg, if you go to slide
There's
135.
about 8 components that make up
Let's go to
the-
slide
the
135.
formula.
and talk about
I
it.
think the question is this year's cap is so low, so why would it be so much higher next year?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So the cap,
It's the levy, not the cap.
okay, so the tax levy is the number you start the formula with. So if you're starting with a higher number,
Yeah.
you're gonna end with a higher number, provided that none of the factors in the middle are gonna bring that number down. So we know that we start off with a tax levy of X, and then we get to add, I'm not gonna go through every single number.
Jill, correct me if
there.
I'm wrong,
We-
but the main difference last year was this line right here.
Yeah, is our capital exclusion, right? Is that what you're pointing at?
Yes.
Number 9.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Capital debt.
The capital debt and capital exclusion, because it's also driven by the aid we get on our buildings. So when we get building aid, it gets netted against our debt for that year, so.
To not
and-
dive into it too much, there was a
Yeah.
capital project that was not filed completely. We filed it last year and received additional aid from that, but that does have
Well, that can happen
ramifications.
in
And
any,
that-
yeah, and we get aid back, and then the aid gets put against the capital cost, so it drives the levy down if that happens, if you get extra aid. If you get less aid, the cap gets driven up because now your debt is more than what you're getting aid.
Let me give you another hypothetical example. Let's say for whatever reason, the state aid that we get, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, because I'm a social studies teacher. Let's say in April, for whatever miraculous reason they're able to do it, because I've never done it,
Building aid.
we get a much higher state aid number than you built your tax cap off of. You would probably see a change into what our allowable levy would be.
If it was in the area of the building aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Given our circumstances, and I think you mentioned this earlier, like, it's like wild, or I don't even know the right word to use, that a cap would even be imposed on our district after a $25 million loss.
It is a formula that the state is trying to make for all, without the exception of anything such as what we have occurring here.
What's truly wild about the formula, in my opinion, is the CPI.
Yeah.
So there's a CPI that's allowed to be used, but it's capped at 2%. Our CPI has not been 2% for a number of years. Worse since COVID, and so forth. So that does not match what we're able to input into the formula against our expenses, right? So all of our expenses are going up 2, 3, 5, 6%, but we're only allowed to add 2% to all of, in between those numbers in the formula.
So I wanted to stay on this one for a second because
Sure.
I want to go back to your presentation earlier. When you were talking about one of your drivers for increasing your budget was
The health insurance?
No, the bond.
Oh, the bond, okay.
That would come into play here because you're looking to put money down towards the bond. So that should, though, if I'm thinking for next year, that would be something that would allow our tax cap to be higher than it is currently this year.
Okay.
Because we're paying more of our debt.
If we pay more of our debt, it will increase the amount towards our tax levy, yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to make that connection from your presentation. And then I wanted to go back to, and we can go back to our slide that has the 5 options on it, the budget options. I wanted to go back to something that you said, Alexis, about like kind of removing piercing the cap. Because right now, based on all this information that we got, which is why our tax cap is now lower than it has been previously, A is lower than we asked last year, right? B was the percentage that we increased last year, correct? So I know just from reading different things that we receive from community members, you know, we keep hearing about, now they want us to pierce the tax cap. We had 79% of our voters vote yes to our budget last year, and that was at a 4.58% last year. Yes, we keep talking about piercing the tax cap, but I think you're right that we need to not speak of our budget as piercing the tax cap, but again, looking at what it is what's our needs, and I know we saw it here too, talking about it as an override, which we might have to do because this number, 2.86, does not match the need of the district. And it's coming at the fall. Again, it seems to be there were things that were not done properly. Even when we had money coming from Indian Point, we are now in the most critical time of a board, and no, it does not feel fine to sit up here and make this decision for everyone, but we have to make a decision based on all of this information that is being presented to us that is the culmination of what's been happening. Indian Point closing, none of us up here chose that. Not a single one. I didn't move here thinking, I moved here, you know, a few years before that happened. I didn't move here thinking that was going to happen, plan for it to happen, or anticipate that was going to happen, but now I'm living that reality. This tax cap that we had of 2.86%, I don't think any of us, we were shocked when we heard that number, based on the fact that last year alone it was 4.57, and in our mind, we're thinking it should probably be similar to that number. And I thought, Jill, you were joking the first time you said that number, because as a mathematician, I was like, that's not possible. And now we're learning that it's from, you know,
it's possible based on, you know, in our situation, the reason it's coming out to that is because we did get an influx of building aid. And because those 8 items that are allowed in the formula are the only 8 items that are allowed in the formula, that is what's making that change. Yep.
And remember, if you go back to our initial conversations, we had, based on calculations, we had an even lower threshold. We had a 0.91.
That's what I was mentioning.
Jill took a look at the regulations and chose to, from a financially responsible standpoint, pay off one of those bond anticipation notes, which is paying it off before it turns into a bond. So you're getting ahead of interest, you're paying off when you have some cash to lower your total debt.
You can only do it when it's in that stage, so it's an opportunity.
And it expands your amount.
I just had a quick question. And when we pay off debt, right, it's also aidable for the bond, right, that we're doing? Like, what is the percentage that we get back that's aidable?
So we get an aidable building aid on the expense of the cost of the construction, which in our situation, well, in our district, it's about 42%.
Go right ahead.
I have a question, and this is all really great information too, but we know obviously a lot of people don't watch the meetings, and we can talk about this all night, and probably still people won't understand. So, you know, we did the thought exchange. I feel we heard a lot of people are worried about the taxes going up. I'm sure people have talked to you personally about that and things, you know. So I think we just have to be cognizant the way it comes across. Like, you explained it really well. I do think people are concerned. You know, you can say 6%, 8%, 10%, and if they hear 8 to 10, it's going to scare them. So, like we said, everybody has to understand what it means if things go up. I think we have to just be careful how high you might take that. You know, I think obviously we've seen the 2 and the 4% are not really going to help us too much. So, but I do have a question. So you're saying even with like the 8%, our fund balance is going to run out at some point, right? 2030. So what happens, because people may not know this. So if it's going to run out one day, what does that mean? Are we totally broke? I mean, we still have money to run a school district, right?
These are good questions
yeah.
What it means is that, again, you go back to those revenue streams that we have. We, as a school district, we would have, from a revenue standpoint, let's focus on the major ones. You have state aid, you have your tax levy, and then you have reserves. So if you are without, let's think of those as dials. If you are without that reserve dial, which is what the tax cap legislation in New York State, again, is meant to do, is deplete your reserves, you have to rely on other forms of revenue, which primarily would be the tax levy.
Right.
So you'd have to raise enough funds or go back to the other side of the equation and make enough cuts. And where we are as a district, we would not be cutting, you're not going to make that cut up by cutting pencils, by books, by binders. You're going to be cutting our largest components of our budget, which can be found in salaries and staffing liabilities, which means you would be cutting program for students.
Right, that's coming down the road at some point when the
Well,
tax,
either
when the fund
it'd be either cut expenses or raise revenues, primarily in
Right.
the form without a fund balance, or reserves in the form of the tax levy.
Go ahead. No, I just feel whatever we raise it to, eventually we're going to be in this situation again in a couple years. So, like you said, we can raise it now and still buy ourselves some time. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just feel like it's gonna, eventually it's coming, but I guess I don't want people to feel like even when it runs out, if it does, like we can still operate as a district. Like we're not totally.
We will continue to advocate for, in addition to being good financial stewards, we will continue to advocate, particularly with those adults who can solve the problem that other adults created.
I just want to say, I think that whatever we decide as a board today, it's important that when we're talking to people in the community about this, we're using dollars. Because I think when you use percentage, the misconception of what that means can be misinterpreted by all sorts of people, right? But if you say, let me get my glasses, sorry, I can't see little things on this computer.
Would you like Greg to go to the next slide?
No, because then I have to take off my glasses. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, but if you look at like the 6.4% or the 8.24%, it's $40 or $51 monthly, right? And that's an estimate. We're not going to know until we have all of the numbers, right? But that's for the average household. That's, you know, a $500,000 thing based on this presentation. Right, so I think instead of talking percentages to people, we have to talk dollar amounts, because that's the only way they're going to truly understand the impact or the bottom line to their exact budget when you're talking to them like that. Because you say, oh, it's, you know, the board raised the budget, you know, the tax to 8.24%. And then next thing you know, they'll be like, oh, that's $1 million. That's, you know, everybody runs away with their conversation. But I think one of the big messaging portion of what we're going to have to do as a board and just as a district is just be very clear in how we're talking to people, and just we have to use dollar amounts, because that's the only clear way to kind of deliver the message that needs to be sent over, and also just outline all of the wonderful things our district is doing right now and why we need to keep pushing forward as a district.
I know you guys didn't get to speak yet. I don't have very much to say. All I was going to say is that I think we have to look at the tax increases as also part of the stabilization plan. You know, like, and lastly, I just want to say that this community has always supported education, and I really, truly do believe that they will continue to. I don't think it's a shock to anybody that we're in this place. And I think the next handful of years, you have to expect tax increases. It pains me because I know a lot of people in all corners of town and all pieces of the puzzle, and, you know, folks that have been here since I was a baby, and then people who just moved in, and it's like, I get it, but there's nothing we can do. Like Amelia said, none of us closed the plant. And, you know, the district has done the best that they could. I think the only thing we probably should have done was actually raise taxes when we had that money coming in, to do things like infrastructure and whatever. That's not for tonight. But anyway, you know, I believe in the community, and I do believe that they'll support what they can, and I understand that some people just can't, but at the end of the day, I do have faith, and I wish that we didn't have to ask for as much as we do, but that is the way of the world. And at the end, you know, it's also about the students, right? So while I love my community members and I don't want them to have to pay more taxes, we are here to serve the students.
Erica, did you want to speak?
Yes. So I wrote down a lot of different things and all a little all over the place, but I want to go back to the one slide that was the 10-year projections that had 4%. I didn't really get to read it. I don't remember which one it was. Yeah. So our average budget increase over the past 10 years is 4.1%. Or is that going forward?
This is an assumption. So to get to the next slide, so if you look at the net, we were asked to put together a 10-year forecast.
I'm trying to fully understand this.
Go to the next slide. We'll begin with the end in mind. To get to those numbers, this is what we assumed on the previous slide. We assumed that the average budget increase over those 10 years that we're reporting on the next slide is a 4.1% increase.
Per year?
Over the 10 years.
Over the 10 years, averaged out, knowing what salaries might be, knowing what other expenses might be, et cetera.
Okay. Okay.
That our average budget increase will be $4.9 million.
Okay.
That we would assume that we are passing budgets under the allowable tax cap of a 2%, even though the biggest misnomer in the state of New York is that tax cap is 2%, right? Right. And then that the fund balance required would deplete all fund balances after 3 years. That's an assumption. That's not saying that will happen.
I know.
But to get the numbers on the next slide,
yes,
that's what we assumed. That's a forecast amount.
Okay, that's just forecasting.
It's just
so
forecasting.
That's the increase in the budget, and this assumes with these parameters that we are even over 10 years. If all of these things stay exactly as we're only looking at 4.1% increases.
Average.
Annually.
It's the amount our budget increases.
The budget,
not the levy. Not the levy, the budget.
Okay.
This year increased 6.6.
Right.
I said this year we are increasing 6.6.
That's an estimate too.
Yeah.
So where I struggle, being in this community for a very long time and over 20 something years, and seeing this go down and seeing that our taxes have been, we had maintained taxes for a very long time because of Indian Point. But we also had, the reason we are where we are right now is because we did have a lot of buffer within our budget. And with that buffer within our budget, that's the only reason we have the fund balance to begin with, right? We have, in the last 3 to 4 years, we've cut as much as we possibly can, where it really is very little buffer left within the budget. But year over year, looking at our audits, we had 3 million, 4 million, 2.5 million. That's where this $20 million came from initially. And with that in mind, was for where we are right now. Like so my point is we have been overtaxing our community on paper, and to put this money aside for the rainy day. So now what we're doing to them is we're asking them to go, we're looking at a D and an E scenario to fill in a larger gap when we have been, over the course of many years, overtaxing them, to get this $20 million to help offset these large increases. So for me, I don't feel entirely comfortable going with the 8 or the 10% increase. I know our community supports education wholeheartedly. I just feel like the only reason we have this money is because we have taxed them in the first place. Now, I'm also very concerned about where we go from here. So if we go to 8.8 or 8.4 or 10%, if the budget does not pass, where does that leave us? And if we do the 8.8 to 10%, are we doing that to save $1 million long-term? Or are we still going to be, we're always looking for efficiencies in our staffing and our students and their program. But are we going to make major programmatic cuts if we go out and ask the community for this larger number? I think a lot of people will think, oh wow, I'm happy to pay that to support education if it means our children in this district will have everything they've had. But at some point, no matter what we do, we're going to have this conversation again and again and again. It doesn't matter if we go to 8.4 now, or if we go to 2.8, or we go to 4.4, it's really irrelevant. At some point, this is going to be a continual conversation over and over and over again. Now, the other thing that I hear what Corey is saying, especially, it's kind of hard as a parent not knowing what's coming in 2030, 2031. Like, it's hard to look forward, but can we really rely on, the fund balance is not over 100 and budget that goes up to $120 million eventually. The $1 million is not, that saving that $1 million may help our current households now, like be able to afford the tax increase, because $1,000 for people is a lot of money, right? So, and again, we've been taxing them. So I think we're gonna have a lot of issues. So what happens if we go out with an 8.8 or a 10% increase and we ask the community that, and we don't get the supermajority? As a board, what are we then going to come back with? And what would be best to come back with to pass a budget at that point? And I know we don't want to go too far down the road here, but you do have to think this. I mean, we're putting a lot of effort in here to ask for 8.8 and then to retain the money, and then, or ask for 10 and then come back down to, well, we really can't go, the community's not supportive, we have to go to 2.8%. Where does that leave us?
Alexis, do you mind if we start with Allison?
No.
Okay. Allison, go
I
ahead.
just have a question about the fund balance. How did we build that? Was it solely from tax levy,
Yes.
or does it include also the money that we got from cessation and from
Cessation's
the
out.
pilot?
It's all
But
tax.
what built the fund balance
So can I just,
to what it is now?
jump in for, you want to go?
Well, I
I
just
just want to get the answer to that.
So I was
Let's
gonna-
answer the question.
Yeah, let's get an answer.
So,
if you don't- I'm
fund
sorry.
balance is built over time. It's from the beginning of time. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you, I didn't go back 10 years to see how did
Let's
we
just talk
get from
about
10
energy
million.
tax stabilization fund.
Yeah.
Money, not fund balance, because we're only allowed to carry 4% in fund balance. We're talking about the allowable energy tax stabilization fund that we have, that $20 million.
So before, go ahead.
That's the clarifying point.
So the state comptroller allowed the school district to build its fund balance larger than that 4% each year through a number of different ways, whether it be, there's ways that we always try to capture fund balance if we need to, which is a delicate balance. You could put a budget freeze in place. It could be from a one-time grant. It could be from an increase in state aid. But as Jill said, it's built up slowly over time. And my understanding is that the district would try to aim for, in previous budget years, they would try to aim for a certain amount of their actual budget line items to be money they would put aside for the rainy day fund, which eventually became the tax stabilization fund.
Can I just, do you want to go? No, go ahead. No. But what I was going to say is just, October of last year, we had the auditor here, and he presented his audit budget. And just for context, right, the fund balance has been growing because we've been fortunate to get more and more state aid than we always have projected. But there's two particular years where we got almost $10 million. In 2024, we had $3,397,000 left over, right? And in 2025, we had $5.9 million. That's almost $10 million of the $26 million that we have that came from 2 years, right? That came from 2 years when we were under Princeton plan. So all the other money, let's call it $16 million, we were lucky to get a $1 million grant from Senator Harcum last year, right? From, I can't remember what fund that was for.
It's basically at the end of every legislative session, there's discretionary funds that the legislature can be awarded.
And over the years, we've been fortunate that the state aid has been more than what we've had projected. So that has helped to cushion what's happening right now. But without that money, I wouldn't say that we've been overtaxing people. I would say that if we're giving a budget of, this year we got $15 million from state aid, but then the next year we were lucky and we got $17 million. We don't know the final numbers until after the budget is voted on. So I think to say that we've been overtaxing people, we can't use that. I don't feel comfortable in using that term as that's what it is.
I will tell you that is how this was done previous to all of us sitting at this table. We had the $25 million cushion, and then we didn't, right? And in that time period, in order for us to build that, if you go back to further audits, and you're right, it could be state aid, it could be something else, but either way, you're still setting a number that you're taxing your community. At the end of the year, you have money left over. However you got to that money left over is an assumption of, because now we have no money left over, because now we're taxing people as low as we possibly can to maintain, right? So it's like a shift in what we're doing. But we have been taxing for this. It was part of the plan. It was presented to us as a community. It was part of my transition onto the board of how we were going to do long-term, how we were going to get here long-term was through a larger fund balance, because we are only supposed to have 4%. No other school district is allowed more than that.
Well done. I just want to make sure that we all have
I want to just say it's a recommended amount, the 4%. It's not illegal to have more than that or less than that. It's a recommended amount by the comptroller's office. I just want to say
We've gotten dinged. Communities have gotten dinged for this, for having that extra money. We got away with it because of our particular situation.
They allowed it.
I just want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to speak. So Alexis, I know you were waiting. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, I'm trying to remember. Okay, so I've been around the longest, I think. I was on the board and my first term, and it was for sure part of the plans, probably from 2017, 2018, that the excess from each year would then be held over. But I want to say that it is normal for based on our budget size, to have about $4 to $5 million left over at the end of the year. That wasn't overtaxing. I wouldn't use that phrase per se, but exactly what you're saying is what they were doing.
It was planned for.
It was right. It was like planned savings, and so at the end of every single year, there was always that underspending of the budget, and then saving of that money. And then it wasn't until 2 years ago that we created the appropriate reserve to put that money in. That money probably would have depleted faster had our state aid not gone up, but it did go up because of all of our ratios changing. It has nothing, I'm just gonna throw this out there, I'm not trying to argue, it has nothing to do with Princeton plan. There was no millions of dollars saved. It had to do with our state aid ratio going up and the reserves as well being there. So that, and then the other thing that I wanted to say in response to what you had said, Erica, if that, let's say you go with 8, let's say you go with 10, let's say you go with 6, whatever number we go with, 7, right? Whatever it is, if the first budget fails, and I'm speaking for myself, not for the board or the superintendent, but I would say at that point, you're likely going under the cap. We're going to have to severely look at what we're doing as a district, make really hard programmatic decisions, and then the following year have to make up for it. So at the end of the day, I'm actually at peace with going out to the community and asking for what we as a group truly believe we need. And if they say no, well, then they get what they get, and we go under the cap, and we have to make some really critical, hard decisions. Yeah, because we can't have our cake and eat it too, right? Like the plant and the 25 million was amazing, but it's just not there. So if we want to make all of these great improvements and continue to function and improve as a district, and become even more high achieving, we need to get the funding that we need. And sadly, if the community does not support it with a supermajority, okay, then they spoke, and we go down.
But the budget's still the same number, still $102 million.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
then
but-
we'll have to make up for that in other ways, or maybe present.
Well, okay, so the budget's still $100 whatever million. However, to end the year with money going into the fund balance, your superintendent's gonna say, well, if this is what we're doing and this is the increase, then we're gonna have to take a serious look at X, Y, and Z. So even though that top line budget is still the same, I think it'll be managed differently, is my expectation. So that's my thoughts as a trustee. I'm fine with whatever the group decides in terms of the levy, and if the budget fails, then the community speaks and we give them a lower.
Could I give a hypothetical, if I may? So if that were the case, then you again have to go back to the two variables on either side of the budget, revenue and expenses.
Right.
If the community rejects a budget at any levy, you could go to the one revenue that you have left, which would be fund balance, or you would go to your other variable side of the equation, which would be expenses, and you'd have to reduce expenses, which would be cuts.
Cutting programs. Yeah.
We are at the point in the district where we've, as I said, trimmed around the pencils, the scissors.
Right, but
Right.
let's like
There's no
be
more
clear, we're
funds.
talking
There's-
about cutting programs and teachers and like the
The
very
80%
like
of our
heart and
budget.
soul of
You-
what makes us what we
The
are.
I like
80% of our
I like to
budget.
explain it in
What percent?
The 80% of our budget?
Well, you'd be going into, what I always say is I look at the large expenditures that the district would have to look at. You would have to look at the major expenditure areas, which are employee
That's
salaries.
the
and
80% I'm talking about, correct, right?
Making cuts from.
What percent of our, what percent of our
it
budget
makes
is,
up 80%, you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And I wanted to go back to something that you were talking about, Alexis, because we can't have our cake and eat it too, and I think that a lot of people are banking on that we're gonna get this money from the Stranded Act. And I just wanna say, whether I'm on the board in the future or not, if we ever are granted the Stranded Act, it's not a Hail Mary, we don't have to worry about anything else. I think knowing that it's something that could disappear, just like our money from Indian Point, we can't bank on that being, oh, okay, that's here, we can have 0% increases over all the time. We really need to look at the infrastructure of our schools, right? Like, that is something that I think we, especially those of us on facilities, to see how much need is in this district. So we can't just bank on getting that and then assuming we're in the clear for good either. Then it's gonna be, again, strategically thinking of how do we move forward with this, and that's if we even get it. So there's so many unknowns, and we have to make a decision as a board that we feel best suits our district right now and for what we can predict happening based on the information that we have at this moment. Lauren?
So I just want to say that I think going forward, people, like recapping, if we raise the tax percentage, people have to understand that it's going to be for the good of the students in the schools, and that, obviously things could go in a different direction if it gets voted down. So I think people have to know that, and I think people have to just, this is how they want things to move forward. We have to have people come out and go to the polls and vote too, because, people who want to keep our district the way it's going have to come out and vote for that.
Thank you. Anybody have any other, you have something else? Your brain forgot it now? Okay, if it comes back, let me know. Anybody have any other comments or questions they want to?
I guess I just want to know, like, where.
Well, that's what I was gonna, that's where I was leading to now. So now at this point, I think we've all kind of said a few things. I think now we need to, as a board, because Jill, you need that number.
Yeah, we need to make a decision.
We need to make a decision,
Yep,
so.
I filed the tax cap on Sunday, it was due on Sunday, but we need to file the correct tax cap and where we're, what we think we're actually going to do within the budget.
So we're looking at these 5 scenarios, so I guess the best way would be to go around. Do we want to start? Which end? No, don't make eye contact with the teacher.
Alphabetical.
So,
A is for,
A is, I don't, Allison, what would you?
Before I say, can we,
would you
give
like-
a range? Can I say I would be comfortable with this
Yes,
and
because
this?
then
That's what I was gonna
Okay, so then maybe we can do, yes, absolutely.
Okay, because it's very
Yes,
hard.
so maybe that's a great way to begin, so maybe we'll start with the range and then we can go, and it doesn't have to start with you, so if you start now, we won't start with you next. But maybe if you give us the range and we all kind of come together from there, then we can pinpoint a number. And Jill, if I'm correct, these are the numbers that we asked you, or that we
Right,
just
those are
asked.
just
and that-
examples.
Those are just examples. We can choose numbers between any of these as well. So if we decided we liked 8.5, I'm just making that number up, it's not
These
my
numbers
number.
were, yes, these numbers were suggested in our early January meeting to help with
Or,
projections
yes,
of
right.
possible.
Or if we wanted just like a flat 5, we could
Right.
project anything, and then we would just need the information from there.
Anything
All right, so
goes.
Allison,
Hey,
what would be your
hello.
comfortable range at this exact moment?
So I just want to say that after tonight's presentations and conversations and listening to what everyone has said, I've actually changed my mind. Because, well, personally, I feel like there's no more important thing to fund with taxes than education. Healthy, robust, strong public education. It's one of the most important foundations for me. So, but I also have been super sensitive to how are we going to do this? Listening to everything that everyone has said, I actually have changed my opinion a little bit, and I'm in between C and D now.
Alexis?
6.5.
She's, right now, she's given 6.4 to 8.24 as her
Yeah, and
comfortable range for right now.
I'm willing to use everything I've learned and all of my communications that I can have between now and when we vote with the community to try to, I don't want to say sell or convince, but to try to teach other people what I've learned tonight.
Educate.
To educate, yeah, to teach people what this means, what this means for our district and for the students, for the kids.
Alexis?
I would say that I'm between 6 and 8% as well.
C and D, or just the number 6
Whatever.
and 8?
You
Okay.
know, close enough. You can round if you want.
Corey?
I think that, I couldn't say it any better than Allison said it, so I won't repeat that, but in my opinion, I don't see the purpose of going anything below D or E. I think that the community supported us, the district, the students last year, and I think that they'll recognize the situation that we're in, and I have confidence that people will come out and support it. So I would go with E, but I understand, that's a big number.
You want
So, which line do you want me to?
Sorry, finish your statement. I was cutting you off before you were ready to finish.
But the range of money or percent?
Percent.
I don't know, between D and E.
Okay.
So between 8 and 10?
I'm going to widen the gap
Okay.
and say I am between C and E.
Ooh. Drive a truck through there.
I didn't know we could go that far.
You can change your...
Tamika?
I was just going to say that I think in looking at the numbers and just crunching everything overall, just budget line to budget line and dollar amount, I think D is the one that gets us the closest, the longest to our survival, and giving it more time for, extra funds to come in and just give us a little bit more time. I think going all the way to E is probably going to be a little bit too much for some people to stomach, right? So I think D is sort of like the balance in between, in my mind.
So what I'm hearing right now is Tamika is the person who goes in and is very decisive. I will take that, and the rest of us are like,
Because I've already crunched numbers based on D, so now if you say it's 7%, I have to look at a whole other spreadsheet to help me understand it, right?
I'll be Tamika.
yeah, I know.
My brain works on spreadsheets.
Lauren.
I'm also between C and D, and I know we probably need C, but I feel a little closer to C.
Okay. Erica?
I am, my biggest concern is passing a budget and having that be successful. And with that said, and knowing how the community supports education in this community, because education is the most important thing, I'm most comfortable with C.
Okay. So I'm going to ask now, there were two of us.
Oh, it's dying, the owl's dying.
Oh.
That was very
Okay, so there were two of us then that went as high as 10 point,
Somebody was saying.
the 10%. So Corey, I went with you all the way to E. But now we're the only two who are there. Would you be comfortable knocking out choice E and saying you want to maybe explore the option D, just because right now, realistically, if you and I were a yes on that, we're alone.
I'm a yes on
So
D.
you're a yes on D. I'm going to pull out my E as well. Sorry, I just want to go. So now, within the table, our discussion is between C and D. And that's where we will further. You had a question, or you wanted to say something?
I was just gonna make one comment, right? Just so we have this in our thought as we go between C and D. If you do budget C, by 2029, you're only gonna have $2 million to go into the next year. So you're gonna have a huge shortfall that
Is
you're
that
not.
including the cessation?
Correct, because
Yeah.
that's when it ends.
Right.
So I just want everybody to keep that in mind. You don't get to 2030. When
And
the
D, we
cessation-
have,
When you go to D, you get to the following year.
yeah.
That's just the only statement I want to make.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors.
So, no, I'm just processing, sorry, I'm trying to regroup where we are. We have now a range from most of us between 6.4 and 8.24. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us who are within that range. And then we have 2 who are at our minimum and our maximum there. So I feel like the conversation is going to be, where do we fall from there? So I'm gonna open back up to, I'm not coming back around to you. So, but I'm gonna give you something to think about for a moment. The rest of us now are somewhere between that 6.4 and 8.24. Think about which way you're leaning more towards, the lower end or the higher end. Does anybody want to make an amendment to what they stated? Anybody feel strongly about where they are?
I'm struggling because the community has never seen anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
And last year was probably the highest that we've, I'm afraid to go, like, I don't know, I'm really struggling with that. I think that 8.24 is something that is gonna go, I think it just sounds like a lot, given that we've always had 0, 1, 2. Last year, 4.5. I mean, that's a significant jump. I would say that I'm closer to 6.4 than I am 8.24 as a trustee. Maybe there's a middle, maybe there's something in between the two.
And that's where, again, unfortunately, if we pick that magic number that's somewhere between 6.4 and 8.24, I just want the board to know, and it's completely okay, I just want you to know, this sheet is based on these numbers. So,
We can rerun
yeah,
the
we
sheet
could,
and decide.
Sure.
yeah. I know we can, I'm just making sure that everyone is aware that if we pick a number that is between there, for example, what if I throw out a 7.5%?
That's what I said.
I can hear everything. No, I couldn't hear you. I was just thinking what's kind of like right in between there, give or take a little bit. I'm gonna throw out the number 7.5.
So first,
And that's gonna be where I am going to land for right now. Anybody else wants to make a comment or a suggestion, feel free, and we can go from there. Go right ahead.
I think 7.5, I think obviously fits within what we are talking about. I just keep thinking about like the comments I read on the thought exchange and the community's views, and I do feel they're going to be worried about that, but we know what we have to do, so if that's how you guys feel with 7.5, I still feel it's going to seem high to people.
As we're sitting here hemming and hawing over this percentage point, what does that mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know what it means in terms of the fund balance, but like, as the administration, like,
yeah,
right?
It's estimated that every, tell me if I'm wrong, I could be off by a little bit, but every $500,000
is a point.
Is a point, or a half percentage
Half,
point.
I think it's half.
It's a half,
Right? I think it's
Yeah,
half.
so if you look,
it's half.
it would put us between, so like 560, right?
And this is
Does that
also,
sound
to Corey's point,
If we went to like a 7.5?
Yes.
Looking at the numbers, which I can't.
it's also
see.
$5
Yeah.
a month.
I don't think this is, I have to I honestly don't think this matches my taxes.
Well, we're estimating it based on the information we have.
Yeah, but you're estimating on something that's, I don't know. People
But even if it was up, I
people
think-
that are paying $700,000 value on their homes, like, right now, they're paying $11,000 to $15,000.
So we rely on our partners at
I
the town
know.
of Portland. We'll make sure we reach back out
I
and make
just,
sure we double check.
I'm telling you, from what I know, based on what I know of people paying taxes in this community, I don't believe that these numbers are completely accurate.
Is that just school tax though?
Just school
you're talking
tax,
about?
just school tax.
So I think the
I
conversation
don't-
is
Based on assessment, I'm not.
we already know that
No,
we're
I
gonna
know.
need a supermajority regardless of whatever is decided here,
Yes.
right? And I think what needs to be taken into consideration is whether you're gonna have the conversation in 2029 once you don't have any money, or what the next steps are, right? So those are sort of the conversations. It's like, you're gonna do it, if you need a supermajority regardless, right? So I think that's how we have to look at this, and basis was, because we cannot stay under the cap. So you need a supermajority regardless. Would you not get a supermajority so that it gives us a longer time to not have to worry about this and give people a little bit more of a breathing space when it comes to taxes, instead of 2029, I might not be on this board, but people are gonna have the conversation all over again about taxes and where it goes from there. It's just something that people should keep in mind.
Can we actually go back to that other slide, Greg? This one? I just want everyone to like really hone in on those two columns that we were between the 6.4 and the 8.24, and then look in. I'm gonna just stand up for a moment to make sure that we can all, I'm a visual person and I wanna make sure. So we're talking about these two columns, and even if it's, let's say, not completely correct, I think the amount increase based on these numbers, if this starting number is not correct, even if it's this number here or something, I wanna look at the increase amount.
Difference between the two.
The difference between the two.
Times 12, right, yeah, annually.
Right, so annually,
Right.
even if it was here, like, the increase amount you're talking is about 150 annually. Even if those numbers aren't correct, the increase amount should still be about that, or about 100 to 150 to 200 annually.
You're not, I'm optically, I'm knowing this community.
No, I know, I'm just,
there's not much you can say to me to make me budge to 8.4%. So 8.4%.
I know, but
I
somewhere
understand
in
what you're
be-
saying, but it's
I'm
not.
just talking now somewhere in
Right.
between there.
It's
I'm not saying it
dollars
has to
for
be
you,
those.
it's different for dollars somebody else.
Oh,
There's a
I-
lot of people who are struggling, and that $100, $200 makes a big difference, and
No.
$1,000 makes a big difference.
Absolutely, and that was full transparency. I said, you know, speaking of children, I have 4 children, and that could be the difference of who's playing a sport, who's doing, what vacation are we going on. I absolutely get that as well. Like, I'm not downplaying any of that, but that's the reality. Or are we going out to dinner this week, or we're gonna cook? That is the absolute reality for a lot of people in this district, and I'm not saying that I'm excluded from that conversation.
We also have a significant amount of people in this community that are renters, and because of inflation and because of the cost of energy and everything else, their rents have already gone up significantly. So they're looking, that 1 or 2 percentage points difference is also means that their rent could potentially go up, right? So it's just, there's a lot of different things, scenarios.
But now, so now I'm gonna ask you, I hear you on saying 8.24 is too high. Would you be comfortable as high as 7.5? Not saying that you're comfortable with 7.5, but would you be comfortable as going as high as?
I want to be clear. You guys are, if you are comfortable where you're comfortable, we go with where you are comfortable. Like, it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be me here. That's the one that's the holdout to convince.
No,
Like,
I'm
here.
not convincing. I'm just asking though. Would you?
I'm where I'm at, and that's.
So 6.4 is your spot.
Where I'm at.
Okay.
If we go even a little bit above 6.4, 6.6 is our budget increase for next year. We would be covering the amount that the budget has increased. If that alone is how we sell it, by saying we are covering the budget, the cost of the budget increase for next year, that's what we're gonna do. If we can go over that, great, I support that. But at a minimum,
6.63.
6.63 is the budget increase for next year to fill the current estimated gap that we have to meet the budget for next year. So we're talking about a number that's very aligned with that already. So we could, even if we use our budget increase for next year as a baseline for that and going from 6.6%, so it'll be a little bit more than scenario C, it's at least a platform to jump from, right? At least it gives the community something to say, okay, well, we're gonna at least fulfill what the budget for next year requires, right? Mm-hmm. Regardless of the levy and regardless of what the percentage of the increase of taxes are, it will fulfill the need that the district has identified that we have for next year. So just as far as like getting the community to support the budget, a 6.6% increase is what we need, right? So
just to clarify, when we
I know
talk
it's not the same as the levy.
Correct. So
I get that.
when you look at a budget-to-budget comparison, there's different numbers being represented by that percentage.
Yes.
And then the levy-to-levy comparison is different numbers.
Yes.
So it's not an apple to an apple.
Of course.
But I
No,
also,
I
I
was
also
saying
want
that
to
it makes
comment that just because the budget went up 6.63%, it doesn't mean that the factors that made that budget go up 6.63% are going to go up the same amount the following year.
Right,
So,
right, of course.
I mean, you might think, you know, you're not going to exactly get what you got the year
No,
before
of
for
course
that
not.
same amount of money. Okay.
But just like saying like as a minimum.
I just wanted to just build for a second on what Allison just said and what Tamika said. If we're already aligned as a group to override the tax cap, then I hear what you're saying. Like, we want to obviously cover the increase, but it would be like treading water. You know, I feel like if we're gonna go for it, then we should you know, at least try to make it a little more than that, than it being at the same baseline. And I was just gonna ask, I don't know what we're, like, if we're literally hoping to all agree to a percentage point right now, or can we, now that we know the area that we're in, can we take like a 7.5 and have Jill crunch the numbers? No?
We need a decision tonight.
We need to give Jill a decision. So
We are past the filing deadline, and we need to make sure that we file our.
So we can't take one day to confirm the.
Because
We
we
will-
can't
it
have
needs
a
to be
day,
done in
because we
public.
can't vote. We'd have to meet here again to do it.
I'm not doing anything tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay. That was just a question. I am busy tomorrow.
I'm just looking at you three. Can you guys give me numbers that you would?
I'll do whatever you guys want. I mean, I think it's, to me, honestly, 6.4 and 8.2, it's like so close, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally, really, if you want to know how I really feel, I say you go forward, you press hard, we're going for the override. And if it fails, then we have to work with what we get. And then I hope that if you do one hard year of pushing for that override, then following years come much easier and much lower, and we stabilize the community a bit. That's not to say that in a few years you might not have another hiccup if none of this advocacy work comes through, but I don't know, you're going for an override. Do you get what you need?
Yes.
I mean, we need money. At the end of the day, our schools are falling apart around us. I mean, like, everybody complains that our facilities are the worst, and you gotta put your money where your mouth is. We've been paying artificially low taxes for 70 years. 100 years. That's how I really feel. So I'm good with whatever the majority
I
decides,
prefer not to
literally any
attach that to
number.
the centennial award.
What?
I was told, Lauren, don't put that in the centennial.
Don't put that in.
Okay, so we need, I think at this point now, we need a number.
It is?
We need a column because we
need a column, we need a number.
Presented 7.5 to the community. So it's for us to start having that discussion, we're having a discussion about something we have no information on.
So you don't want to make up a new number. Where do you want to land?
I think it's C or D, and we just all say how we feel, and we have to move on. I think we just need to give Jill, what we're already going over, we're overriding.
If that's the case, I'm gonna throw out, my vote then will be 8.24.
D.
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 You guys win? That's it? I don't have to vote.
No, we want to hear you. We want to hear what you have to say. We're taking a poll.
Okay, D. I get it.
I'll support D, but I still feel C because I just really worry about what people are gonna think. I just feel like we've heard their feedback and the thought exchange and stuff like that, so, but we could go for D, that's fine.
You guys want D?
I think if we go with D, we just really have to explain exactly what you said here tonight, because now it's, what time is it?
It's
10:15.
Oh my
No
God.
one is listening to this.
So my biggest concern with D is that we still, I think the community has to understand that we still have to make cuts. Like, it doesn't, just going to D does not mean we don't have to keep looking for program cuts.
I think efficiency is what we're still going to do regardless of what option we're under.
Well, that's a natural part of what they do.
I think what you have to explain is what you said, if we go high now, hopefully this will just.
I don't think, Erica, I don't think I would say that, because I think that if we go and we actually achieve an 8% and get the money that we need, and we can, I think that it's not even like we still need to make cuts. We need to find efficiencies, but we can enhance the education. Like, that's the message that we have to give, because that is the mission of Mr. Trump.
But then the next year it still goes, but then we're still running out of money. Like, which way we go.
Running out of money in 2030 is better than running out of money next year when we're going to have to have this.
No. I think we're all there. That's why I said there's only $1 million.
There's
only $1 million difference there.
With this cabinet and Mr. Trombley here, no one's running out of money.
Yes.
So
We're
next year we would. The fund balance would disappear. But each year we'll have to increase taxes.
Yes, but the whole reason to go higher is we still have the same budget. Like, no matter how you flip it, it's still the same budget. Whether you're running out of money in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Like, it's the same thing happens no matter what you do. So that's why I'm like, no matter what.
I don't think the same thing happens no matter what you do.
With the budget is the budget.
But the budget's the budget, but how Mr. Trombley operates and manages it will change based on the levy increase.
And I just
he
want
would
to
be
say,
like suffocated if the budget failed and he had to go to 2%. He's gonna have to make much different decisions.
That's where we may end up. So that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I honestly have one other thing to say. I think whether we go with 7.5, or 8.24, if the community's not, supporting the override, they're not supporting it.
I think that I honestly, my whole reason for the 6.4 is I do think the community would actually support a 6.4. I'm not so sure about anywhere in the 8s. That's me personally. You all can tell me that I was all wrong when we all
I don't
come
think
back
it's
to
about
this.
being right and wrong.
I don't think we know. Can I just say something? I think as a board, we all made a decision tonight that says that we understand the financial situation we're all in, and we have to make a decision that's gonna be best for the district. Some people might not like it, right? But at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for students, what's best for our district.
Right, we have to speak our truth in doing that.
Yes, and we have to just always just stay center of that. And as long as we're all outside of this room, as we speak to people, as we talk, as we get towards the budget, we all just need to be united in that front where we're talking the same points of why it's being done and why it had to be done, and also messaging, right? And sharing the benefits of what we're doing. Tonight was a great, just having our students come in. Again, like you said earlier, it reminds us as to why we're all sitting here, why we all signed up for the board, and why we're here. And we have a much bigger mandate for the kids of this district and our taxpayers, but it's for our students. And we have to stay centered and focused on that.
I just want to go back to something that you stated in your speech, and it was earlier on, so let's see if everybody remembers. But it was, in terms of that, it was the messaging, and now it is way past my bedtime. But I am a firm believer in the message that you present, or how you make people feel, or how you speak to people is how they are going to interact with everyone else. So I think for us, we have to lead with everything that was stated tonight, and if this is the way that we want to move forward, we cannot and should not talk negatively about our district, about how we're moving forward. We need to remind ourselves, and we should not always look for the failure, we should look for how we are going to improve and those enhancements, and how we can pass this budget, and that's how we need to speak, because it is what is important to our students and what they are doing. We all are invested in this district, and I just think that we have to be mindful of how we speak about this moving forward. Alexis, I think you
Yeah,
had
the last
something to
thing
say.
I was just gonna say was that up until tonight, the administration didn't really know if we were gonna be asking for 2% or 10%. And I'm hopeful that now that at least we have this parameter set, that Mr. Trombley and his team will actually be able to wrap their head around how do we make the district more efficient, how do we enhance the student experience, and they'll be able to share that now as we move forward into the budget vote, and then after the budget passes and we roll into the next school year, we'll be able to hear more about that. Up until now, I feel like everyone's been so unsure of what direction we're going in that we haven't actually been able to hear about what we could gain, what we could lose, where we'll have to tighten the belt, because that's a big range, 2 to 10.
So just to speak to that, we'll ask everybody to review any budget presentation that we've already given, where what our budget code owners would like to do from the 26-27 school year, what we'd like to do to our programs. That's the initial starting point. We of course, we still have, if you look at the slide that we have up here, when you look at, I heard the phrase, the budget is the budget. So our budget that we need to use to balance our expenses and our revenues, that doesn't change if we increase the tax levy, right? The tax levy is just one of the mechanisms that we use to help balance that. So we still have a responsibility to take a critical look at our programs, our staffing, and all of our expenditures to make sure that we are providing the best possible education. That may be reassignment of how we do things, or a rethinking of how we do things. It may be of a suggestion of how we approach those. So just keep that in mind, please. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what we are moving forward with.
Go right ahead.
Oh,
So 8.24% is the number we are moving forward with.
Yes. Option D.
Option D.
Okay.
the answer.
Can you?
Everyone's making faces.
Can we? Because I know I don't want. I know I don't want to bring this up, but this is going to be, yeah, keep going, like to the contingency budget. If this was voted down, and then we present the budget again, and that still gets voted down. Can you speak? Can you speak to what the contingency budget is? Just one more time, I know we've said it before, but can we speak about what it is so that the community is fully aware of what that looks like?
Sure, could I frame that in just some of our legal reminders that we want to provide for everyone? So this slide, you'll see some of our mandated reminders that we want to provide the community with. This will talk about the budget hearing. The statewide voting day is the third day of May. Third week of May, third Tuesday of May, I'm sorry. A public hearing will be held. We already have this on our budget calendar where, Greg, if you go to the budget calendar, which is 2 slides before that, you can see some of the mandated items here. So our public hearing will be the 6th. We will mail our budget notice to our residents on the 8th. The school budget vote and board election will be on the 19th. And if needed, for whatever purpose, a revote, that will take place on June 16th. So let's go back to how the voting process works. If the adopted budget that the board will adopt on April 7th, if that budget does not pass, since it is in a position where it needs supermajority, if it does not pass with 60% of our voters voting in the affirmative for that ballot measure, the board would have 3 options. The board could put up the exact same budget for the community to vote on. The board could choose to put up a revised budget for the community to vote on, or the board could immediately adopt a contingent budget. A contingent budget in general terms means that our levy is not allowed to increase any more than our spending this year. However, our budget is increasing by 6.6%. So the district would not have that revenue stream coming in. We would be forced to go to the expense side to match that, or
You'd have
other
6.6
variables.
And
like uncovered.
can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
If we could resubmit this exact budget, would that be with new percentages that we're asking? Or we would say we're going to submit the exact 8.24%?
So when the board adopts a budget, you're adopting a spending plan.
That one, so the
Right.
100
And associated with that is a levy amount that you are requesting to fund.
You can.
If it's the same budget, it's not
Right,
the
you can
different
put the same
percentages.
budget back up. You
But you
can
can just adjust
change
them.
the budget, you
No,
can
so-
change any factors in the budget, you can
Okay,
change
so
what
that's
you're putting
we
in
could
for a
also then
levy, you
say
can change in.
if we got a no, flat out no, we could say, okay, we won't increase the budget 6.6%. We'll do whatever
But then,
cuts
so
or,
you can change either side of the budget, the revenue or the expense, and put it back up. You can put it back up exactly the same way that you had it the first time and hope for the best.
So just twice.
You can, but if it fails a second time, then you must go back to a contingency budget, which means that you will only have a tax levy equal to the tax levy we have this year. And you need to operate out of that tax levy, so you have to find out where you're either gonna get some more revenue or what you're gonna cut to get to that number.
okay, just wanted to clarify.
So just want to, before we move on from this, I want to thank the board for their thoughtful discussion. Greg, could we go to the stakeholder input opportunities? So we spent a lot of time, and I appreciate the community, or the board and the community taking that time. We spent a lot of time reflecting on the thought exchange results. There are additional opportunities for our community to become involved. We had to adjust our meet and greets, but I do believe our next one is on the 11th. Is that correct? Our next board meet and greet will occur right before next week's board meeting from 5 to 6 p.m. We will then have one right before the budget adoption, and then we will have another meet and greet with the Board of Education virtually on the 21st. In addition, once we come to a firmer understanding of where our budget is and what is included in that budget, we will be providing, particularly after the adoption, we will have opportunities for the community to meet with Jill and I, and we can help answer any questions that anybody may have about the budget. If it passes prologue, and I anticipate that it will be, we will hold budget meetings at various times throughout the day and in various mediums such as remote and in person, and we will stagger the dates and times that they are there. So if your work commitment or your family commitment means that you can't go to 6 o'clock meetings, we will have morning meetings as well. So those types of opportunities will be available. And then, again, I do want to thank the Board of Education for being thoughtful, measured, and demonstrating the care and commitment to the stewardship of this district that is of the highest quality. So thank you for that. And that is our budget presentation.
Okay.
At this point in time,
We have the rest of the meeting to do.
Well, are you,
what? Consent agenda.
I was gonna ask that too.
So you retire a motion. We can go just make a motion to move them to the next. Aren't they most retired?
table.
Yeah, it's quick, but I think it's.
No, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm saying it would be easy to move it.
Yeah.
And I'm out of water.
I'd like to ask for a motion to, I'd like to ask for a motion to amend the agenda.
Second?
Oh,
Well, no, you have,
Motion to amend the agenda.
Motion to amend the agenda.
Second.
all in favor?
I would like to ask for a motion to table policy, agenda item policy, number 14, sorry, it is that late. I would like to ask for a motion to table agenda item number 14, policy readings, to our meeting that is scheduled on March 11th,
Motion to
2025.
move policy number 14 to next week.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Okay. So now back to the consent.
Consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Second.
All in favor? That brings us to, I just lost my page. Superintendent, I lost the page. Oh, here we go. There were no items removed from the consent agenda, and that brings us to our superintendent's update.
At this point in time, I'll provide any nature that needed to be updated immediately to the board in this Friday's update, but we will also plan for our updates next week, and that will also be for the cabinet.
You don't
next
have
week's board.
15 pages to read to us right now?
Yes, I would request that we have our cabinet update next week.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like a lot of our cabinets gave us an update in their
correct
budget presentation.
Cabinet, thank you for your detailed insights in your presentation and your support of the board discussion. Please have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. So the next item we have is our committee reports, and where we have something from there. The first committee that we are going to have report out on their committee is Advocacy.
The PTA Advocacy Committee has created these awesome one-pagers for everybody to learn about what we've been talking about for several weeks now. There's federal legislation called the Stranded Act, which could potentially provide a stream of revenue for our district based on the closure of Indian Point leaving behind spent nuclear material. It already exists. We just need to get our representatives to bring this bill back out onto the floor of the Senate and the House. And what we're doing is we're encouraging everybody to call, write, email, or send a digital letter to our federal representatives. There's several ways you can do this. So whatever makes you feel comfortable, please help us, because this is going to be a way that we can actually fill that long-term gap It's not guaranteed, but if we could get even a part of it, it would be really helpful for us to have a more sustainable stream of revenue. So what you're looking at right now is all of the information about what the Act is, what it does, and what we need you to do. If you have questions, you can email the PTA Advocacy group and ask them your questions. If you want to write to one of your representatives, we have Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Schumer, and Congressman Mike Lawler's information on this page. All of this is also going to be emailed and is available on our website, on the district website. And there is also a very cool online digital letter that anybody can fill out that will automatically generate a letter to all three of these representatives advocating in favor of the Stranded Act. We also have a Spanish version, so we want everybody in the community to take a turn at asking our legislators for the help that our district needs. We've already got 417 letters sent to our legislators for this act alone, but the more they get, the more they'll hear us. So if you have not already participated, please do. Later this week, we will be issuing the second of our calls to action, and that one goes to New York State. That one is going to be for an extension of the cessation fund, which we've also talked a lot about, and it's going to have a lot of the same exact information, but about this other state level legislation that could also provide a source of revenue for us. That one will have the information for our local assembly and state legislators. It will also link to an online letter, so we'll be able to send digitally. It's very easy. It takes just a few minutes. It's all set up for you. And as many people as we can get to contribute to both of these, the more chances we have of getting our district onto our legislators' desks. So look out later this week for the one that's going to go to New York State for the cessation fund. And then also, I wanted to mention that Mike had talked earlier about how we are advocating, and we have been for months. We've got meetings set with both federal and state legislators that we have invited them to come to the district to tour the schools to see what we're doing, and they're coming. So they do hear us. We just need to make sure that we keep our message on their desks for as long as it takes for them to actually do something to step up and help us. So for everybody who's out there helping with these, we are extremely grateful. And you don't have to be a member of the school community to help. Anybody in our community, anybody anywhere can advocate on our behalf. So,
Allison, I have a question. Did we share this with like our senior team? I know they had sent out an email. I don't know if that was just to people in the schools or if they had shared it out.
So the email goes to the people who are signed up for the advocacy email list. Okay. We're also going to push these out. There are talks about how we're going to distribute this more widely. What you're looking at right now is a PDF that's an 8.5 by 11. So the idea is that we're going to print this double-sided in English and Spanish so that we can distribute this on paper throughout the community so that people know all the different ways that they can advocate. Even if they don't get school district related emails, we're still finding ways, this is one of the ways that we're doing it, to push this out to the wider community so that anybody, anywhere, really can reach out.
Do you know what the email address is? Instagram?
Yeah, that's what it is.
I mean, I would love the district to send this out.
Just read it out loud.
At least Facebook and Instagram would be a good spot to put this.
Yeah, so I know that they've been working with Josh to get some of this stuff sent out. We're literally, as we speak, creating all of these documents and all of these advocacy tools. We're putting it together ourselves, and so as we get each piece,
I help make it.
You help make it. I know, so did I. That's what I mean.
But we did, yeah, but no. But we've been sitting. Yeah, but we've been sitting on this for a couple weeks, right? So
no, well, this one we just finished last week, but we also had to wait for the Spanish translation so we could get the double-sided. But yes, it's.
And the PTA advocacy email, which is it's at the bottom.
It's at the bottom.
So for people to get all of these
Do
right in their
people
inbox.
realize that this is $26 million annually? Like, I don't think that
it's literally making up for the.
I know.
Plus
and we'll never have to go out and stress over an 8% increase. Like, this is really important stuff.
It is.
And that's what I was saying.
It's potential. It is potential to give us something that's sustainable.
Well, this is what we should be getting. Like, this is because that land is
unusable.
until it becomes usable again, and then we
This
can
is
actually
what-
have
this is
businesses
what we are
that
owed.
contribute taxes back to our
Yeah,
district.
this is what we are owed.
That land is useless, and this is, and then we're not the only district that's dealing with this. There are 18 other states that have abandoned or unusable nuclear facilities on them that cannot have their nuclear materials moved. And that's what we're dealing with here. And so this is giving us money for that unusable land that we're basically just a storage facility.
And I want to
at
go
this
back, because you sat with me during that in the December decommissioning. If you remember, they talked about land that can, I forget the exact terminology, but remember they talked about land that could be used sooner than later.
Released, yes.
Released, yes. And there was some land that they thought from Indian Point that might be able to be released to the town sooner, or the village, sooner. And then when they went and tested it, they realized none of the land there is actually able to be released anytime soon. So there's going to be a really long time that land.
Yeah, I think and this is just an estimate, but at this point, because they haven't even taken down all of the major pieces, and so we still have to do dust mitigation. There's so many pieces to this. It's 10 years before that land is usable again. Even if they release small parcels of it,
But
it's not
remember
going
that-
to be built
remember
up
the
enough
person that
to
said,
contribute
though, when they
tax.
tested the soil, like in
Right.
the area that was like, I don't know, maybe like the driveway area.
The
or
training
something,
facility,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, we were surprised that this
Yeah.
came up with that. So yeah, I'm just
Cesium, yes.
also
I know
going-
way too much about nuclear material.
Anything that we can do to keep spreading, sharing.
So this
the-
one is, and we've been advocating for this for a while. And Mike has been going around trying to get people's attention for this too. And then there's another piece of legislation that he helped co-author. That will be our third piece of advocacy. And that will come after we get out the New York State Cessation Fund. So we're doing these one at a time because we're, we're just a group of parents who are all trying to do our best, and we're going as fast as we can. But this is available now. The New York Cessation Fund extension advocacy pieces will be out this week. We have meetings with legislators next week, and we're just going to keep going. So anything you can do to help.
And thank you, Mike, for all of your work.
Yes, thanks, Mike. It's awesome.
My pleasure. It's an honor to be able to work with such dedicated individuals who are really trying to find out the best way to support our community. So thank you to the PT Advocacy Committee.
423. We're up 6 from earlier today. So thanks, everybody. Keep going, keep going. But this is it. So if you look on the screen, it's really easy. The information about what we're asking for, you take action just by putting in your name and address. It actually automatically generates, based on your address, the letters to your representative, so you don't even have to figure that out. Once you put that in, it will take you to a letter. It says start writing. The letter's already pre-populated with basically everything that we're asking for, but you have the option to edit that letter to say whatever you want. So we were asking community members to please put something in there that's personal to you. My grandchildren go to these schools. I graduated from these schools. My kids go there now. Whatever your story is, I think it's more impactful if you personalize it. So then it'll send the letter for you, and it'll say thank you, and it'll say share. And then everybody share it.
Is that the link on board building?
Thank you, Carmen, for putting up the link. So there is a link on our budget. I'm sorry. Oh my God. The word budget is just like in the back of my mind now. It's on the agenda. So there's very easy ways to access all of this information if you find our agenda from tonight's meeting.
Any other, thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Any other committee reports?
I just want to do a plug for the Centennial events and the gala. The tickets are live now. You can go to our Centennial page and just purchase them directly. There's also a schedule of other events. I do have good news to share in that Anthony Merlini found that we do have a time capsule in the Cornerstone. Ooh. So now it's next steps in how we access that. So there will be some type of time capsule box May 1st.
And you did not open it when we were drilling.
You can't, yeah, no. The
Well,
whole
we
building
didn't
will
hit it by
collapse.
accident.
But we will get there. And then the other thing I just want to plug for the high school PTSA, because it is only a few weeks away, and tickets just went live, and we already sold out of VIP tickets. The fashion show is March 21st. We have a record number of 88 kids walking in the show, and another 10 to 15 helping backstage. So it's a very large portion of the class involved in it, it's one of our most inclusive events. for the senior class, and the entire community is invited. All students are $10, and whether you buy ahead or at the door. Right now, we're doing a pre-sale, and tickets are $15 for adults. They will go to $20, I think in a week or so. So don't buy your tickets. There will be an email that goes out to the community probably this weekend or Monday to buy tickets. We were letting the senior parents have a little bit of an opportunity to buy them first, so.
Okay. I attended 3 different PTA meetings in the last week. So first one I remember is Supt, and they just had a meeting last week, and it was about making friends. Their next meeting is going to be March 18th, and it's going to be in collaboration with Peak Skills Septo. So they're going to do a collaboration there. Blue Mountain Middle School. Yeah, that was last week. They do have Lucky Grants for sale, and that's something that's going to be new. So parents can buy those in advance on their Cheddar Up. They're $3. You could send a little message to your child, or it's a little like
the one they use for after school.
Oh, St. Patrick's.
Oh, Cheddar Up. Yeah, sorry. That's why my text to speech doesn't, or my speech to text doesn't work. Because
like a little message that the kids get?
Yeah, they get a little message, and I think there was
like the candygram here.
Yeah, but there was like some little coin or something that you would, like, your child would get, and then the students are able to buy them during lunch in that Monday before St. Patrick's Day. They're also selling golf umbrellas, and then on March 21st, that Saturday, they're doing a Chipotle fundraiser. And then, do you want to talk about elementary school?
Sure. I attended the elementary school PTA meeting on Monday. So let's see.
There's a 3rd grade dance coming up on the second 3rd grade dance coming up on the 21st.
Yeah.
Is that what, the Friday?
Did they say? Did they say when 4th and 5th?
It's going to be in April.
I think it's the 11th, I think. I don't know if they've announced that.
Yeah, it's going to be in April. They were doing one a month.
Yeah, and they selected their nominating committee. And they're going to be working on trying to fill the new rules for the PTA for next year. And what else was there? Something. Oh, what is it? The cultural night, right? It's happening on the 21st as well. Day, sorry. Late afternoon.
It's like 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Cultural day.
Oh, the dance is going to be the 27th, not the 21st.
Okay. And then that's going to be FGL. Sorry, I'm being a bad representative right now, but I can't think. So, and then I also attended curriculum, and that's about it.
For Cultural Day, they're going to have lots of different foods from all over the world.
And they're looking for volunteers.
Yes, they are looking for volunteers. So if anyone can volunteer their time, or they want to even get a boot and sort of do their food of choice for everyone, that would be amazing.
Oh, I need this paper stuff so I can see what I'm doing.
Finance, we just kind of went over all the
Policy we'll talk about next week.
Policy actually met today, and we will save it all for next week, and then facilities will be next week as well. So at this time, that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Can I ask for a motion to it? Oh, I'm sorry.
You just got me
Audience
super excited.
comments on agenda items. Sorry, we are not there yet. I'm skipping a whole page. Audience comments on agenda items. Carmen, do we have anybody? Thank you. And then we have board new business and discussion. We do have a presentation there.
We did that.
I can be very quick.
Didn't we do that?
This is just a, I will place this in my update as well, but we also have.
We needed to know this tonight.
This is
The sequence.
the draft agenda for the line by line, so that the community can make plans to attend and see what time that various budget codes would be going over if they have.
They will be at Cultural Day, and then they will be at the fashion show, after they sit through this all day long, on March 20th.
It's a community day of togetherness.
Come on down.
So just wanted to put that up so that the
Did
community,
you-
the board and the community is aware.
Can we potentially, because of all of the other events that are going on that day, is there a potential we can discuss and maybe amend, like where we maybe remove the lunch break and have maybe a working lunch time or something to end at an earlier time so that,
The most fun part of the day.
I wouldn't mind eating lunch at the desk.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I was going through just so that board
So
members
the
can
request
get
right
to-
now would be to do a working lunch.
yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
Less
see-
breaks and, yeah,
Cultural day.
yeah,
What time are
sorry.
we supposed to be there till?
3.
8 to 3.
But last year, what time did we end?
Last time we were out of there by 1:30.
Yeah.
So, and now maybe if we eliminate the lunch, that might allow us to be done maybe noon, 1 o'clock, so this way we eat it while we're talking.
Yeah, I have to set up for hundreds of people by,
I'm gonna get something with
I have to be
Corbin.
back for that by 2 p.m. I'm not there.
Yeah.
We're gonna get garlic knots for the group.
Oh, God.
You ever heard
Make us all run out of there.
Spinach and garlic knots.
You're later, because we're gonna be there Friday.
I just lost my face again. I need to stop putting my papers down.
I think that's
Okay,
fine.
now I can ask for us for a motion
Close the
to,
meeting.
Second?
all in favor?